Welcome to Redacted on this, what is it, Wednesday?
It's Wednesday.
I'm Clayton.
I'm Natalie.
That's Natalie. And this is the show where we cover the news you might not see in other places. Yesterday, someone sent an email and said, hey, no coverage at all of the Hoover Dam explosion? And someone responded for us and said, no, that was all over the mainstream media and it was solved within a few minutes. It was just a transformer that exploded. Redacted doesn't cover that kind of stuff. So
Not normally,
not
no.
normally.
I mean, something that is just talked about all over the internet, we try and sort of leave that alone if we can't add to it.
Right.
Although I did feel very much the need to ring in on the Will Smith slap.
Right.
No one needed that from me.
No, we don't.
I'm going to concede that.
The slap heard around the world. So we do cover the big stories here, the stories that might not get a lot of coverage in the Western media. We're longtime journalists. We do this show live every day, Monday through Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern time. Get out your beverage of choice. I've got an iced coffee dialed up because we've got a very busy show for you today. So we're going to talk about a new warning that was just issued by the United States in Russia, specifically in Russia. We're going to go through a number of these pieces this afternoon because it really is fascinating about getting Americans out of Russia. What exactly is happening? Something big is happening. We uncovered and talked about some of this last night on the show as it relates to Crimea, but something is going on, and we're going to get to the bottom of what's going on with the State Department folks in just a few moments.
Plus a brand new spanking war budget that's bigger, biggest. It's the biggest.
Yeah, it might be the biggest we've ever seen. Well, it is the biggest we've ever seen. We'll talk about that. And we're going to be talking about Nancy Pelosi heading to Taiwan. This is going to stir the pot. Now that has been confirmed this afternoon. We did get confirmation shortly before the show that, in fact, she is going to be going in 1 month. We're going to go through the ramifications of this move by the Speaker of the House of Representatives.
And the president may be set to declare an emergency. In fact, he has done such a thing over the climate, which will give him all measure of extra powers. Now, you may love the environment. I do too, right? But is this an appropriate amount of power? Is this a power grab that we should keep an eye on? We're going to break this down.
I labeled it Dictator Biden in the rundown. So that gives you an insight into where I feel about it, where this is going. We're also going to look at Mexico. Some really interesting moves on their energy policy and why the United States is not happy with Mexico. All of that. And we'll have a little fun on this Wednesday edition of Redacted, because Redacted starts right now.
All right, two people in the chat are saying, is this live? It's live.
We're live.
It's live right now.
MC2 wants to know if it's live. Are we live? We're live.
We're
yes.
live.
John Doe wants to know, is this live? We're live. We're live. We are live. And so one thing you can do to help us out here is that when we are live, YouTube, because we're up against a behemoth, right, with suppression and censorship on these platforms, covering the stories that we cover, Google is not a big fan of that, and neither is YouTube. But what happens is if you press that like button, it actually pushes us further out into the algorithm while we're live, so more people can see this news and get informed, because we put a boatload of work into building this show for you every day. And before we start on today's show, we have a daily newsletter, okay? It goes out every day, Monday through Friday, and it is our Redacted daily newsletter. It comes to your inbox first thing in the morning, 6:30 in the morning Eastern time, if you're in the United States. That's about lunchtime or so.
Yes.
in England, right? And if you go there, you sign up, it's free, totally free. You can read the newsletter in about 5 or 10 minutes. But we found out today that we're being suppressed by Google. So a number of people let us know that Google has, and Gmail specifically, not happy. So this email, you can't really read it. I wish I would have zoomed in on it. But this one is from Caston Olson, longtime reader of our newsletter. And he or she, I don't know if Caston is a man or a woman, I'm sorry, I don't know, says, you have been dropped into my spam folder as dangerous information by Google. I love the newsletter, and this person has to go through their spam folder to get our newsletter. Isn't that crazy?
Yes.
Like, this is what happens with Gmail. They have the promotions tab. They have their other tabs now in Gmail. So if you're a Gmail user,
We're not dangerous.
we're not dangerous. We're actually covering information that you need to know about that other people won't cover. So I wanted to do this, and I wanted to call this out because from now on, the email that we will be sending your daily newsletter will be coming from this. That's my email address. So you can send me an email right now, and I will read it. It's clayton@redacted.inc, not .com, .inc. Clayton at redacted.inc. Add that to your contacts. Add it to your VIP list.
Add it to your favorites.
Add it to your favorites. That way it won't go to spam. So when we send out the morning newsletter tomorrow, you will receive it. There won't go to a dangerous folder by Google. Isn't that crazy?
Yes.
Labeled. Who's Googled it? I was thinking about like the stories we covered in today's newsletter.
I mean, they were pretty innocuous compared to like what we think
Or what
of the world.
Or other stories like today's newsletter. David, would you, Philip, I don't know if you read today's newsletter. It was pretty innocuous. We covered the fact that Texas University, State University, is now having a Harry Styles class. You can go take a Harry Styles class.
That might be dangerous.
Well, what I have to ask is, I have never seen a dangerous story come out in the newsletter. Like, what story have you guys talked about that has been dangerous?
Like, how are you? How is it dangerous for you that we cover the fact that we are anti-war here on this show? Like, and we cover the stories about the war in Ukraine. We cover the Sri Lankan collapse. I'm just trying to think of a few of the stories we've covered.
The same story we did yesterday about how distrust in the media is at an all-time high. Solar panels, people are having a hard time recycling those and they get into the landfill and that's bad. Is that dangerous? I mean, it is dangerous for the landfill and for all of us. But
it's dangerous for the liberal narrative, right? It's dangerous for mainstream media that wants us to believe that, the green energy revolution, right? It's dangerous to them, I guess.
Yes.
I don't know. It's crazy.
Hold on tight. I can hear
I didn't
is
get
that
a chance to read
song.
the email. I didn't get a chance to read it yet today. But I didn't realize we talked about solar energy, so I can't be a part of this show anymore. I guess you guys really are that dangerous.
Oh,
I had
you're
no idea.
firing us now. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's more into hydrogen
the sun
power.
is scary. The sun is scary.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
My sister, by the way, lets me know last night when we made that joke about how we don't all agree, and I said we should fire David, that she thinks I really hurt your feelings. If that joke was poorly received, I apologize.
You would have to get up very early. Here's the difference with people is like, I know your heart, and I would always know that you're joking. And even if you were slightly serious, I'm not going to get upset about it because we can have different opinions of each other and not be, it's not a bad thing. So nothing you've ever said bothers
soothe
me.
your feelings in case I don't try and hurt feelings here.
Yeah. I'm not one of those people.
I do try to hurt people's feelings. I try to hurt politicians' feelings and big corporations. But I don't want to hurt any female feelings tonight. I do not want to hurt anyone who's watching right now that is a female. Merriam-Webster this afternoon updated what it means, the definition of female. This is not a joke. I just wanted to do this as a public service announcement. So Merriam-Webster's dictionary this afternoon has now updated what it means to be a female.
Yes, it has. The update doesn't show in this full screen here.
Yes, it does. Of relating to or being a sex that typically has the capacity to get pregnant and produce eggs. Okay. So that's
yes.
All right,
that's interesting. I think
There you
that's
go.
fine.
I think that's fine.
Yes.
That generally has
unless you're a seahorse,
Generally.
which I think seahorse doesn't the male carry.
So if you're generally able to get pregnant, you might be a female. Just to be clear.
Okay.
Yeah.
Might be slightly offensive to seahorses, but okay.
It's hard to say. All right.
They changed the male definition too, just FYI. It mimics the female definition.
Yes, they also added having an identity that is opposite of male, and the male definition says having an identity that is opposite of female. I have many thoughts about the binary, but that's not in the rundown today, so we're going to leave that one alone. Let's leave that alone for now.
All right. Well, let's start the show, shall we? Let's get into our top story and a really stunning move this afternoon by the U.S. State Department. Russia is basically explaining their mission and wanting to extend the areas where the West has placed long-range weapons. So let's go through what happened. So the U.S. State Department issuing a red alert for Americans.
Yes.
Also, Russia explaining that, look, we are going to extend the areas where the West has placed long-range weapons. That is the area of concern for the Russian army from now on. If there are long-range, high-powered weapons in this certain section of Ukraine, that is now an area where we were going to take over.
Right. So the red alert coming out of the United States warns Americans that if they are in Russia right now, they will be subject to, here's a quote from the U.S. State Department, harassment against U.S. citizens by Russian government security officials, the singling out of U.S. citizens in Russia by Russian government security officials, including for detention, the arbitrary enforcement of local law, limited flights into and out of Russia, the embassy's limited ability to assist U.S. citizens in Russia, COVID-19 restrictions, and terrorism, right? So during times of crisis, the United States, one of the main benefits of holding a United States passport is that they come and look for you if you say you are in trouble, or they evacuate you from dangerous situations. Famously, there was the couple that sailed their infant daughter around the world and had to use their ship-to-shore phone because they thought she was sick. And the U.S. government used taxpayer dollars to fly out an aircraft over the middle of the Pacific and save them, right? This is how far the U.S. will go to get citizens out of dangerous areas. Many times it's not just like they charter in a private flight for you. They will charter a flight for Americans, and you do have to pay your way, for instance, in a hurricane or something like this. So this is the instance, in this instance, the U.S. is saying it can no longer guarantee how much longer it can get you out if things get hairy inside Russia now,
did
right?
we really think that they could get us out of Russia? Like that
Yes.
the United States really could go in and extricate us under the dark of night? Like they're going to fly in like a Black Hawk helicopter, like they're going into Abbottabad, Pakistan, like going and getting Osama bin Laden in the middle of the night?
Because there is still a consulate operating inside Russia, right? And that is considered American sovereign territory. Any consulate is considered territory of that country,
Now,
right?
I thought they sent them home when all this escalated. Didn't they?
Inside Ukraine, they did.
I thought Russia did. I thought Russia sent
I thought so as well. Like I thought absolutely that was the case in Russia, that closed in February and they were all ordered out of there. And the same thing in the United States,
Right.
out of there, out of the United States, out of Russia, both backwards and forwards on this issue. So I don't know if there are any still, I'm sure, of course, there's absolutely still some delegation that's floating around, of course, inside of
Yes.
Russia, CIA, et cetera. But this is extraordinary. I mean, this is an extraordinary alert. Now, this is on top of what we told you about last night, which is the U.S. Embassy in Ukraine saying, get out. Any U.S. in Ukraine, get out now, especially if you're in the southern part of Ukraine. So what is about to happen in Crimea?
So, and further, the West is saying that because so many Western nations have closed their airspace to Russian airplanes, if you look at the map, it shows that basically going out of Russia, you cannot go west. You can go south, you can go east, right? Not this map, the one we were just looking at, please.
Yeah, that's the airspace.
Yes. So in the blue is all countries that have closed their airspace to Russian aircraft. So where are you going to go, right? So is this alarmist that the United States thinks that something is going to happen inside Russian borders? Because it's no longer just, we don't want you there because we don't like it there, because we're not friends anymore with Russia, right? This is get out because ... right? So obviously my fear-based mind is filling in the blanks. Now, the U.S. is saying, though, that Russia is looking to annex not just the Donetsk and Luhansk regions, but also Kherson and Zaporizhia. I'm sorry if I'm saying that wrong. So if you look at those regions, those 4 regions are sort of, I circled them on the map so that you can see. Those are 4 dots along the top diagonally are those 4 regions. And then the one on the bottom is Crimea, which obviously is already an occupied territory. So this would take over the whole southeastern border, right? This is what U.S. intelligence has said, even though what we're being told, we have to take this with a grain of salt, is that now Russia has added these 2 new regions to its wish list, even though those 2 regions, Kherson and Zaporizhia, were already in Russian control. They actually fell quite early in the conflict. So is this the government telling us Russia's taking more, or is it us? Is it our responsibility to say, well, they already
Well,
had
and what
these
does this have to do with the United States inside of Russia, right? This is the real question. And again, I think it comes back to the U.S. Embassy in Ukraine saying, get out of southern Ukraine right now. That's what's about to happen. We're about to see an offensive. Now, let's look at what Sergei Lavrov had to say. You can take my laptop here. This is Moon of Alabama, does an amazing job of covering geopolitics. Excellent, excellent website. And pointing out today that Sergei Lavrov, the Russian Federation foreign minister, announced the extension of the land in Ukraine that Russia intends to capture. They're telling us, again, they don't really mince words. I mean, when they tell us they're going to do something, they end up doing it. Moscow. If Ukraine receives long-range weapons from Western countries, then the geographical tasks of the special operation of the Russian troops will change, Sergei Lavrov said in an interview with RT. He says, the president said very clearly, as you quoted him, the denazification, the demilitarization, in the sense that there are no threats to our security, military threats from the territory of Ukraine, this task remains. And again, pointing to HIMARS, long-range tactical weapons, HIMARS, the geographical objectives of the special operation will move even further from the current line to go after these weapons. So if, note to Washington, if you deliver HIMARS missiles to Ukraine with an extended 300 kilometer instead of the 80 kilometer range, Russia will have to move further into Ukraine to secure its own and the Donbas Republic's borders. So again, you want to keep sending HIMARS in there. I saw someone in the chat saying they've stopped using HIMARS. Okay, really? Maybe they're scared about it. I don't know, but this is all you need to know. Like, if they're going to continue to bring these in, they're going to continue to get pounded.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what's happening.
What's so frustrating is, like, look at the Bay of Pigs. This is just that all over again. They have every right to not want to. Their fear is justified. Their response is justified because of what we're doing with NATO expansion, with us sending weapons over there. And it's like nobody seemed like, it's like Russia's the bad guy, but they're sitting here telling us exactly what we should do. Just like they told us 8 years what they wanted us to do with Ukraine. For 8 years, they warned this was going to happen, but we continued to push them. And now we're pushing them further and further and further. So what are they supposed to do?
Right.
Well, we're not advocating for any of this violence, right? I want to make it clear. We're not advocating for either side, even though there is one side that continues to say something that we understand. And then there's a lot of provoking on another side. That is sort of the way we see it. But we don't advocate for.
No, I would encourage all of you to watch Aaron Mate. Aaron Mate did a great interview with Rusty Rockets himself, Russell Brand, where Aaron Mate, great journalist, of course, a friend of the show, who is a journalist at the Gray Zone, talked specifically about the NATO proxy war and the goal in Ukraine. And in fact, you actually had this afternoon, I didn't put it in the show, but you actually had one of the heads of the Ukrainian military coming out and talking about how we are basically turning Ukraine, and he was advocating for this, we're turning Ukraine into a testing ground for high long-range weapons. It's like, we're just basically turning it over. Here in Ukraine is now the testing ground for long-range weapons.
It's like a trampoline.
It's like, come on down here to the jumpy place. This is where we practice all this stuff.
We're doing that on the border of somebody who we're saying, oh, you're a threat. And then we do that in the South China Sea too. It's like, we only do that. We only do this testing where it's like, intimidating
dangerous.
One of our, why do we do it? Like, we could test that just off the coast of the United States.
Right.
I don't know. That's one of when we get to the Nancy Pelosi story, that is another question that my big question is, why?
Why? Right.
Why do this?
Why do we just insist on poking bears?
Exactly.
I don't understand it at all. Although, did we remove the New York Times article from our rundown? That seems to be.
Yes, if it's not there, yeah.
Okay. Although today the New York Times has an interview with the former editor of the New York Times inside Russia, right, and another Russian analyst, right? And it, to their credit, the piece does sort of explain some of the rationale of why many people are supportive of this war inside of Russia. And it's interesting now that the press is at least starting to give us a peek behind why Russia did this, what is the rationale, and why some people do support it. And that has sort of broken down this narrative of everybody hates Russia, the whole world's against Putin, and Ukraine is this sort of utopia that we must preserve, right? In fact, even the NPR article today shows that some people now are starting to realize, yes, there's corruption inside Ukraine. Why is the United States sending so much money there? Why is this war dragging on? This is not what we bargained for. Now, this comes on the latest news that Parliament inside of Ukraine voted out 2 leading officials from the Zelensky government. The first one was Ivan Bakanov, who is the head of the SBU, which we've talked about extensively, or the Security Service of Ukraine. We remind you, is listed on the State Department as an organization that violates human rights.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
I mean, this is literally, if you go to the State Department's website, and this is scrolling through the website, you can actually see right on the State Department's website for years the corruption of the security forces on human rights in Ukraine. This is 2021. Just go right through it and you can read the executive summary on the State Department's website right there. The Security Service of Ukraine is responsible for state security and counterintelligence and it goes through and describes human rights violations. And the list is significant human rights violations.
Yes.
So we're funneling money to them. Even the Federalist today, this is a great piece on the Federalist. So you have the New York Times, you have the piece from NPR you're talking about, you have a great piece over at the Federalist on my website here if you want to take it, Philip. As questions mount about corruption in Ukraine, the neocon narrative is unraveling. So all of the corruption, you're literally having to fire like 60 people because of apparent corruption, stealing money, right? I think we're starting to see the cracks and fissures here, right, of the neoconservative movement to actually continue to fund this in part. We'll see, right? We'll see if they're going to continue to support what's going on in Ukraine.
Yes, it's interesting. And there's another, we talked extensively about how President Biden had an interest in who was the prosecutor general inside of Ukraine. President Trump had an interest in this. In fact, the phone call about this is what got him impeached. Well, now the prosecutor general is out inside of Ukraine, also stepped down, right? Not fired, and then voted out by Parliament just today. Her name was Irina Venetikova. I'm sorry if that is not nice coming out of my Western.
Yeah, Irina, I don't know if you're watching, where we apologize if we butchered your name, Irina.
Benedictova.
Well,
Cumberbatch.
Let's also not forget all those labs that we have no idea what they were doing in. I feel like that Ukraine was like the perfect cover for a bunch of nefarious stuff that we wanted to do that was off the books in the United States, because why would we have a bunch of labs there, and why was that such a big thing? So I think they're looking at Ukraine as like, hey, this is a way we can funnel money, this is a way we can do criminal activity, and we're not under U.S. law.
Right. I mean, heck, you had to that point. You had what was I going to say on that point? Shoot. Yeah, you had man. When you had that brain fart moment. Of course, we had the biolabs. No, George Soros. That's what I was going to say. George Soros, just the other day, talking about the deep foundation that they had in Ukraine. Like they have the money, they had the mechanisms. He talked about the relationship by pushing Biden, against Poroshenko. Like the George Soros money and foundation work, and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation work. I mean, there's a lot of stuff there. There's a lot of stuff that we're going to learn about, hopefully, with great journalists doing the work to start to uncover this mess.
So we have the narrative today, right? The United States State Department warning Americans, get out of Russia, get out of Ukraine. Intelligence saying Russia's taking more land than it had already agreed upon, which means peace talks are even further off the table because we'd have to let them have from Crimea all the way up to their own border, right? We have this story about corruption inside of the Ukrainian government. And so what does the United States do? Well, they tell us, because Russia wants more land, what's next is more money. That the United States now, if you look at this piece from Axios, that Kirby, the White House spokesperson, said that the White House would announce another package of weapons for Ukraine later this week, including, what? You guessed it, those HIMARS, which have allowed Ukraine to strike Russian targets from beyond the front lines.
Far beyond the front lines. That's
So-
exactly what Sergei Lavrov, no, I'm
Just
sorry.
told you not to have.
Putin just said, and Sergei Lavrov reiterated it, which is if we find these HIMARS there, we find these long-range artillery, we are going to consider that area that we will have to invade next. I mean, they're not even hiding it. They're literally telling you this is what's about to happen. So really,
But
really concerning.
The most
And
disturbing
they have
quote
been. They have been the whole time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of people don't realize that if Russia wanted to, they could level it. They could level it right now if they wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
But they have been very calculated in what they're doing. They've been very slow, very calculated. They've been saying they're going to do it for 8 years. You know, this is not like the United States. The United States, we go in and we just mess everything up, and then we try to figure out how to fix it later.
Well, they don't want to level it. They want to keep it, right? They want to own it.
Right, but what I'm saying is they could level it and then repair it like they, I mean,
like they just did in
if they follow
Mariupol.
the United
Yeah.
States. Yeah.
Hi says, why don't you guys move to Russia? I love where I live. I'm happy where I live. Why don't you move to Russia? Why don't you move to Somalia?
Again, if you think this is an advocation for Russia, you're not listening. Because if you think that we are advocating for Russia, then what you are wanting to hear is only pro-Ukraine. And we can't give you that.
Right. Someone else in the chat, Lee Avrok, just said, wait a minute, I thought that Ukraine was winning this. That's what they've been telling us. Yeah, that's what they've been telling us.
I think that's sarcasm, right? Surely
Of course. I mean, if you watch the Western media, they've been telling you all along that that's the case, right? Because it goes against their narrative that they're actually losing. Well, I think what it really does, when it really cuts to the heart of the matter, when you find out that NATO for 8 years has been training these people. Okay, they've been and right now they're training them. They're taking these soldiers, Ukrainian soldiers, to Germany to train them. Right, we have been training for 8 years in Ukraine these soldiers. Right, with all kinds of artillery training, everything. And the Russian army, in literally less than 100 days, has almost eradicated the Ukrainian army. That should be scary to the West. The amount of money that NATO has poured into this place, in this proxy war, and Russia just walked all over them. And now the real story is China, which we'll get to in a few moments. Go ahead, David.
And here's the thing I want to say, like, I definitely don't advocate for what's going on, but I understand that there's going to come a time, because of the way that our foreign policy works. Our foreign policy is very aggressive. It's very offensive. And there's going to have to be a time where some other country that can withstand us, our sanctions, the things that we do, to stand up to us, to stop us from doing what we're doing all over the world, because we should not be allowed to do what we do all over the world. And I think Russia and China are the countries that are going to finally be like, America, you're not doing this anymore. You're not expanding the empire as far as you want.
Yeah. Well, that is the mindset that the New York Times let us in on, right? That is what sort of anyone who lives in this region who is supportive of Russian tactics believes that the hegemony of the world is shifting east. It will eventually center around Russia and China, and the United States will be left holding the bag.
Here is that New York Times piece. So the reason I learned about this piece earlier today, Glenn Greenwald tweeted about that. He said, he said, I can't believe it, I'm saying this. He said, but the New York Times, to their credit, did a pretty darn good a piece about why Russia believes it cannot lose the war in Ukraine by Sergei Shmyman. A member of the editorial board, was the Times Moscow bureau chief in the 1980s and the 90s. And it does an interview with Sergei Karganov, a prominent Russian political scientist, and really goes through. It's like, in your interviews and articles, you've said, as President Putin has said, that the war against Ukraine is existential for Russia. Why? Well, when the military conflict started, we saw how deep Ukraine's involvement with NATO was. A lot of arms, training, etc., on and on and on. This conflict is existential for most modern Western elites who are failing and losing their trust of their populations. And it really is an eye-opening piece. I would encourage all of you to read it. It's really, if you want to get a deeper understanding of why Russia is not going to lose, this is why. And you see, you're watching the collapse of the West in real time right before your eyes. Just look at what's happening in the EU. Look at what Ursula von der Leyen said today. Look at what Joe Biden just did, and we're going to get to that in just a few moments. Absolute dictatorial moves. Look at what Justin Trudeau is doing. They're losing power. Look at Sri Lanka, right? This is what's happening to these leaders who are aligning themselves on this side of the fence.
Right.
It's totally destructive.
And further talks about how this sentiment of anti-Russia, this anti-Russian sentiment has been increasing for years and years, decades maybe, and that at this point Russia felt like it had nothing to lose. Like, you know, we're never going to win back the West. These partnerships will go sour. We have to become autonomous. We might as well burn the bridge. So that's what they're doing. Again, we're not advocating for it, but if we pretend that it is patent evil and there's no rationale behind it, we fool ourselves. And then we're left wondering what's going on. We vote or support a war which people will continue to die for months on end. We don't know when. It will get bloodier and it will get more violent. And so, you know, we can't sort of swallow these narratives without thinking about what am I not seeing here.
We have a daily newsletter. It's totally free. It's at redacted.inc, not .com. It's redacted.inc. It's delivered to your inbox first thing in the morning over your cup of coffee. Please go and sign up. It's, again, free, and hope you enjoy it. Yeah, redacted.inc is a place to go for our free newsletter. We've got a lot more news to get to here on the show. We're going to look at the war spending. The U.S. military budget just passed. We're going to go through some of the unbelievable pieces of this war budget. You're not going to believe it. And we could be moving towards a $1 trillion Pentagon defense budget. $1 trillion. You think that that's crazy? I mean, we're already at $863 billion. Like, we're not that far away.
And
At some point, all the zeros just don't even matter.
There. Yeah,
That's true.
We're probably already there. This is going to be the base is going to be a trillion now, not to mention all the other stuff.
Yeah. Let us know in the chat. I'm curious, for all of you watching right now, tell us where you're watching us from and let us know what is the war budget in your country. Can you guys type that into the chat right now? Yes, we are live. People wondering, are we live? Yes, we are live. So please, in the chat right now, if you're watching us live, type in where you're from and how much your country spends on the military. Be curious to see like the differences here. We're also going to look at Nancy Pelosi is now confirmed she's going to be going to Taiwan. What is that going to do to our China relationship there? That's going to be fascinating. President Biden this afternoon did some unbelievable things as it relates to the climate crisis. We're also going to look at Mexico's energy policy. I guarantee you're not going to see any of these stories in your mainstream media tonight if you watch mainstream media. So thank you for joining us here on this show. All right, my fellow Americans, if you have an IRA, a 401k, or a savings account, things are scary as hell out there right now. The Biden administration has already printed more money in the past 2 years than the previous 100 years combined. The national debt hit a record $30 trillion, and inflation is the highest we've seen since 1982. It's only a matter of time before the house of cards comes crashing down. If you have retirement savings, your money could be at serious risk. Talk to my friends over at Gold Co. and see how you can protect your retirement with gold and silver before it's too late. Go to redactedlikesgold.com and see how you can get $10,000 or more in free silver when you open a qualifying account. You've got to protect your money. Get it out of the hands of these globalists. Put your money in precious metals. Protect your family. Go to redactedlikesgold.com right now and see how you can get up to $10,000 in free silver when you open a qualifying account. Again, $10,000. redactedlikesgold.com. All right, let's talk about the U.S. military budget. Now, I just asked you in the chat to please let us know where you're watching us from and how much your country spends on the military. And let's see. Okay, and Amit says $18 billion in Israel. We're going to have a lot more. $5 billion in Belgium from Albert. Russia, $193. Wisconsin says way too much. Yes, way too much. So something big just happened. You probably weren't paying much attention to it because it didn't get any coverage in the mainstream media. They've been covering the January 6th coverage in television.
Yes.
We had this symbolic protect marriage thing that happened in Congress.
There was a vote on protecting same-sex marriage in the House, which is not expected to pass in the Senate. So it acted just as a roll call of values right ahead of the November election.
So there's a lot of dissent about that bill. Marco Rubio came out today and said he's not voting for it. It's a waste of time. As Glenn Greenwald pointed out, it's just as easy to vote yes on protect like that it is to say no. Like, okay, Marco Rubio, whatever. You're pandering, right? So That was contentious. But what was not contentious is passing the massive new defense bill. Unbelievable. And the questions that are being thrown around today are we about to face a $1 trillion defense bill? $1 trillion. And as David pointed out, we're probably already there. Like, this is what we're seeing in paper on the Defense Authorization Act. But with all of the extra stuff that they spend every year, it's probably already close to $1 trillion, if not has already exceeded $1 trillion.
Because a lot of the government contracts can sort of go around this military budget, right? This military budget is how to, operating the Pentagon, its salaries for the military, even as it goes up, and up, right? The president proposes one thing, Congress says, oh, just take a few more billion trillions, right? It's fine. But it's the thing that really gets under my skin the most is that this most recent round of budget increase did not actually increase salary for the military by very much at all. It was in the 4%. So when we're going to tell you these big numbers, we'll make your eyes glaze over because
Cost
it's
of
just
living.
so much, right? When we're at 9% inflation, the military will not get anywhere near that for increases in salary next year, despite the fact that they are the ones risking their lives.
So let's go through some of this because there is so much pork in this and it's absolutely stunning. Here is Roll Call. Roll Call is really one of the only publications that actually covered this and actually went through the pork in this thing. According to Roll Call, Congress added an additional $58 billion to the budget that the White House didn't even ask for. They just threw in an extra $58 billion to the budget. They didn't even ask for it. So let's go through what this thing has inside of it, because there is all sorts of different stuff inside of this that are all sorts of pork projects.
And really quick, can I point out just at the very top? Go up to the top again. Philip, can you go back so I can see the screen?
No, just Clayton's laptop, right?
Yeah, Clayton's laptop. Where it says additions include money for disaster, war in Ukraine, which they just got $59 billion. So they're adding another $58 billion and saying it's for the war in Ukraine. So how much is Ukraine getting?
Right, an endless supply.
Plus, we just showed you in the previous segment that because now U.S. intelligence is telling us that Russia will take on more regions inside southern Ukraine, we have to come up with a new package, guys.
So let's go through this. The Pentagon, costly ships and planes. The Pentagon budget request did not include any of the $58 billion in programs. And in many cases, the additions were not even on the so-called unfunded priorities lists. So they had stuff that wasn't even, like, some refer to these documents as wish lists. These are like, oh, I wish maybe we could get these. Of particular note are at least half a dozen warships worth in excess of $4 billion that Congress bankrolled in fiscal year 2022, vessels that were not even on the unfunded priority list, let alone on the official budget request. In some cases, the ships are in the Navy's future plans, but Congress insisted that we get them to them earlier. We start working on these things now. Here, look at this. Many of the vessels are built in or near the states and districts of the top Republican of Alabama, Richard Shelby, right? So, of course, these are built there. These are all pork projects for these members of the Senate. The fiscal 2022 omnibus spending bill provided $1.8 billion to begin buying a third destroyer, okay? $76 million for a fleet oiler refueling tanker ship, $590 million for expeditionary fast transport ship, sea base out logistics platform. I could build you a logistics platform that would cost a lot less than $577 million. Give me some plywood.
You don't have that skill set, honey.
I'll build you a platform.
No,
it'll be good.
It's not like a dock that you dive off a lagoon.
I'll build a dock.
Didn't the Obamacare website cost about that much?
You want to see my dinghy?
No.
What?
Didn't the Obamacare website cost about that much?
No, it cost $1 billion to build the Obamacare website, healthcare.gov. And that the first round of it was a failure. It was a failure.
Right. These weapons are cheaper than a website. That's interesting.
Right, yeah. Then they have a
what
dock
a deal.
ship. It is a deal. Yeah, it's a steal. $250 million to start buying new parts for an amphibious transport dock ship. $235 million for 3 smaller vessels called ship-to-shore connectors that are designed to ferry troops ashore. And the list goes on and on. National Guard received $1.8 billion to buy new transport planes, Super Hornet fighter jets. The list is endless. Classified programs, $2 billion plus for classified programs. That's above the amount that the Pentagon actually wanted, more than the Pentagon wanted for their classified programs. Interesting. Probably it's the UFO reverse engineering programs out of Wright-Patterson Air Force Base.
Yes. Well, okay.
Yeah, I mean, Colonel Corso was working on those many years ago. The pot of Pentagon money includes a more than $25 billion increase for the department that was agreed to by Congress earlier this year and signed into March by President Biden. This is on top of the $742 billion.
Wait, what department? The pot includes $25 billion increase for the department that was agreed to by Congress. Oh, okay. I thought it was a new department, the way you said it.
Might as well.
Ooh, what department is that? Disinformation?
Yeah. I mean, this is unbelievable that they are moving in this direction. So it's an unbelievable amount of money. And Matt Taibbi, earlier this afternoon, wrote a great piece. He's a fantastic independent journalist. He tweeted this. He said, the most obscene defense bill in history passed, and earmarks made a triumphant return. But there was little outcry thanks to a progressive rebrand of the war machine. And basically, he talks about how there was, in 2006, there was massive hue and cry about all of the pork and all of the just corruption and pork projects that went into these defense bills, right? And at the time, that additional money was about $23 billion. And everyone freaked out about it. And the midterm elections that year, everyone was, the top issue was pork and corruption in Washington.
Yes,
right?
I remember this. Earmarks was something that was said on the news all the time.
Right.
Yeah.
And so what happened, right? People got thrown out of office because of it. American people were like, enough with these earmarks and these pork projects, this bridge to nowhere. Remember all of that? Well, guess what? So that $23 billion back then, that was the thing, that was the impetus for us throwing all of these corrupt politicians out of Washington. Now, that 23 is now $58 billion. And there's not even a whisper about it. There's not even a whisper. And you want to talk about Matt Taibbi's piece, because he lays out in this piece the rebranding specifically and why this works now. The neoconservative rebrand here is like, instead of calling it what it was, let me pull it up here on the screen. This was Matt Taibbi's piece. Where is it? Sorry.
Well, and previously we could sort of mention wars where there were, people didn't sort of, I guess the narrative was, well, we expect there to be war in Syria or Ethiopia or whatever, right? Oh, but we didn't anticipate a war in Ukraine. That seems a little bit more close to home, so we're okay with it now that we have a conflict that we all care about. Before, not so much. Interesting that, the U.S. is in the top 3 for countries that spend most per person on the military. This was in 2020. These numbers haven't come out yet, right? So in 2020, when the budget was, just a couple billion less than this, right? The United States was spending about $22,405 per person on military defense budget, right? So that doesn't mean that the United States reaches into its pocket and pays that. You do, right? So if your tax bill is around the $2,000 or $3,000 mark, that's basically what you're paying for.
Unbelievable.
Is war.
So here's Matt Taibbi's
Well, that's
piece.
the thing. Go ahead. I was going to just say that's been a long time. 55+% of your tax dollars, that every day that you work, half of your day, half of your pay is going to, or your taxes is going to war.
Yes, well,
that's insane.
One statistic that really gets in my crawl is that the average employee works from January to May for the government. They don't take that home and spend it in their own house. You work and then when you work from June to December, that's what you get to keep to raise your family. Wow. So if you are a 1099 employee, you've only just finished your work for the government about 2 months ago. Now you can keep your salary. Isn't that outrageous?
Now you can keep a chunk of it for the rest of the year.
Wow.
So here's Matt Taibbi's piece. I encourage all of you to read his Substack. The Great American Military Rebrand, he writes. A new defense bill crammed with political pork smashes records, but you likely didn't hear the news because war is good again. And
I'm sorry, I just said 1099 employee. I meant W-2 employee. There's a difference. I just wanted to catch that. Sorry.
But he talks about the bridge to nowhere, and he talks about back then what this was all about. Remember Jack Abramoff $320 million, the bridge to nowhere, Duke Cunningham, all of these scandals with these Republicans and Democrats, all of these earmarks and all of this, and corruption and ethics problems. But he talks about how basically it was then changed and it was rebranded so that now these additions are all good and we don't hear about it. We don't even hear about it because they're not earmarks. They're part of the billions of dollars in weapons that the military did not seek, such as more than $4 billion worth of unrequested warships, many of them built by the constituents of senior appropriators right in their backyard. So this $58 billion revealed by the Defense Department only pertain to congressional increases. So they don't call them earmarks anymore. They don't call them that, right? This is not an earmark. This is something that is important to our congressional increasing. In my backyard, Senator Shelby in Alabama, this is just a congressional increase because they're building these ships in my backyard. Don't call it an earmark. Don't do it. And
should we call it an earmark so that it helps increase awareness? Does that help if we bring back the branding?
That's dangerous, Natalie.
Oh yes, sorry.
That's dangerous.
The U.S., he says at the end, the U.S. has embarked upon what geopolitical analyst Christopher Mott calls the millennial rebrand of the neoconservative project. And the Pentagon's fortunes rose anew after they fixed this, right? As we had this sort of disdain for the war on terror and all of this. Now, we've just changed it all. We've updated it, and now it's worked brilliantly. This is how language works, right? This is why they have these think tanks in Washington. They sit there and they focus group this stuff and they think about, we can't call it the Clean Air Act because it's not actually making the air clean, or we can't call it this, the Defense of Marriage Act when it does this. They come up with all of these different phrasings for these things, and then that's how the White House spins it. And
so that we don't ask questions,
we don't
right?
ask questions.
When a pertinent question, I think, whether you support war or not, right? We respect people who are risking their lives for something that they believe in. And does this make them more comfortable? Does this make their sacrifice more worth it? Does this protect their families better? The answer is usually no, right? It's not for them. It's for a bunch of toys, military toys that kill people.
A lot of people in our chat, like SCVM says doublespeak, and Velocity Raptor says it's called Orwellian doublespeak.
Yes.
Yeah. So we don't know what it is, right? I mean, famously, like the Clean Air Act, I think it was under George W. Bush, it actually made the air dirtier, right? And it was brilliant. Yeah. It was brilliant branding on their part because, so imagine the campaign ads, right? If you voted against the Clean Air Act, right? The act itself actually made the air dirtier. So if you voted against the Clean Air Act, imagine the advertisements that they would run against you. Clayton Morris ran against the Clean Air Act. He voted against the Clean Air Act. Vote for John Smith. He supports clean air. You're like, well, but no, wait a second. You don't understand because the Clean Air Act actually made the air dirtier. It doesn't matter. That's what they called it. So you voted against it? They're brilliant, these guys, these corrupt politicians. Unbelievable.
What's funny, just as an aside to the Clean Air Act, that was... there were things included in it, so they called it the Clean Air Act, but it had like things like safe level, what the government considered a safe level of mercury in the air, in which there is no safe level of mercury in the air. Like there is no safe level, but they had to come out and say, well, this is what we consider a safe level. And it's like, there isn't one.
There isn't one.
But, because the Clean Air Act, it's like, no, we had to work with these businesses on this. So this is the acceptable, it's basically like, this is the acceptable risk to our population that we will take for these businesses to continue to pump this out.
Oh,
yeah. And it's always like under this, like, so it's just like the CARES Act. They passed the CARES Act, like we care about the American people. We want you to know we care. So here's like, I don't know, 800 billion. I can't remember what went to the United States people, the citizens, but 5 trillion was transferred to the largest 800 corporations. It was the largest transfer of wealth. So they named these bills, these nefarious things to be like, well, if you don't pass this bill, you don't care about the American people, even though the American people are getting this much of it and the corporations are getting this much.
Yeah. I mean, how far in your rearview mirror is that 1,300 stimulus check? That seems like
Biden still
ancient
owes us
history.
600.
Someone says, what kind of ugly coffee cup is that? Are you kidding me? Don't ever mock my Mandalorian coffee mug again. How
That's
dare
going to really
you.
hurt our son's feelings.
Yeah, my son, are you kidding me? It's a Mando mug. You're going to be a Star Wars fan.
This is the way, you
This
guys.
is the way. We've got a lot more news to get to on the show. Are you rubbing my leg?
I'm sorry.
I like that.
I didn't know that was
Keep
your
going.
knee. Okay.
Are you rubbing my leg?
Well, that's
Hey, I want
you
some.
should wear pants to the show then.
No. If it's going to get my leg rubbed, I'm not wearing pants. I'm not doing,
Is she corn pop? Corn pop's over here rubbing her leg and watching his hair stand back up.
Hey, we're going to talk about Pelosi going to Taiwan. That's an unbelievable trip. That is, while you're being distracted by Russia, the real story is China, of course. We'll talk about that. We're also going to look at the unbelievable moves. I think it's dictatorial what happened this afternoon on climate in the United States as it relates to what Biden is doing with legislation there. The executive power, we'll talk about that. We're also going to look at Mexico and what they're doing with their energy policy, which is pissing off the United States. A lot of big geopolitical stories that we're covering here on the show, which we'll get to in a moment. But first, I want to tell you about our friends over at Anthem. Anthem Software. Do you own a small business? You need help growing it? Then AnthemSoftware.com is your one-stop shop. Anthem Software helps small businesses all over America find, serve, and keep customers and keep them profitable, right? Making sure that you're connecting with your customers by providing world-class CRM software and results-focused marketing services. Your business will not only grow, but will dominate in this highly competitive modern world. That's AnthemSoftware.com, right there on your screen, AnthemSoftware.com. Every business has a song. Let AnthemSoftware.com help you sing yours. Visit Anthem Software to schedule your free demo of this amazing solution. AnthemSoftware.com.
Well, U.S. Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi has booked a trip to China. No, not to China, to Taiwan, at the behest of we don't know who. It is not China.
Maybe she thought she was flying to China. She was like booking. She was on orbits. Do people
I
still
have
use,
made mistakes like that
do
before.
people use orbits anymore?
I still do. I do.
She was on booking.com and she's like, you know what? I need a little time off. I'm going to go to China. But actually she's going to Taiwan.
She is in fact going to Taiwan. This trip was postponed from April. Now, China is warning her not to do this. This is the first time in 25 years that a Speaker of the House has visited Taiwan. Now, recall that the United States official policy is a one China policy, but in recent months, the Biden administration and the Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, has started to say that we are committed to an ambiguous policy on the one China policy, meaning the United States does want to recognize Taiwan, sort of, but won't go as far as saying it's a sovereign nation. But China is saying, look, we expect you to be committed to this one China policy. So visits to Taiwan, we will consider a violation of this. And now China is saying it will respond militarily to Taiwan, right? And so the United States, as much as we're showing that we care about Taiwan, if we're bringing this military response upon Taiwan, is that friendly?
This is exactly what we want. We want a conflict with China. We want them to, this is exactly what, this is the whole plan, right? We were talked about Russia as the distraction, which is really just the precursor to NATO's, war with China. That's what the main focus should be. As we had Larry Johnson on the show last week, former CIA analyst, he says the real story is China. It always has been China. Our confrontation with China is the next big thing because the United States is losing. We are losing our hegemony. We're showing it in manufacturing losses, energy losses, rare earth mineral losses. Hell, we left Afghanistan and turned over Afghanistan's rich, lithium, all sorts of minerals to China. We're just losing to China. When they launched their belt, what do I call it? The Belt and Road Initiative.
Belt and Roadways?
Yeah, Belt and Road Initiative that they launched. At the time it was like, oh, they're going to do this for military reasons. This is what they're... No, what China did was brilliant. Building an absolute massive infrastructure that even Germany is using China's infrastructure to deliver packages via DHL, like trucks to get packages. They're using China's built roadways. And so their railways, their roadways, China is dominating. And so this is exactly what the United States wants. They want a conflict with China and to try to, stand strong against the Chinese dragon to show that we're the leader of the free world.
So this begs,
Well, then we kinda knew-
begs a major question, right? Why does Nancy Pelosi need to be in Taiwan? Why is this so important, right? We don't even, I mean, I've searched and searched. The media is telling us that Nancy Pelosi's doing this and it's pissing off China and there are strong fighting words, right?
Michael
but
Tracy.
there's no real explanation of why she would need to be there. Well, there's no Zoom, you know, that...
No, here it is. Michael Tracy points it out perfectly.
He says in this tweet, Nancy Pelosi has rescheduled her previously planned trip and is officially traveling to Taiwan next month, despite severe protests from the Chinese government. Luckily for Pelosi, deliberate provocations like this only seem to generate political pushback when Republicans do them. I'm not following that.
Well, because when
Explain it.
Republicans are saying, we're going to go to China, it's what the heck? You're going to go to China? You're going to go to Taiwan? You cannot do that. You're going to start World War III. But it's okay. It's okay for Ro Khanna, and it's okay for AOC. It's okay for the Squad or Nancy Pelosi to travel to Taiwan.
It's okay for the AG to go to Ukraine.
Right. It's always okay for the Democrats to do it, right? Merrick Garland, and it's fine. But when, Mitch McConnell's going to go there, or there's going to be somebody, it's going to be a problem. But even beyond that, it's the provocation piece that Michael Tracy talks about. And if you take my laptop here, Philip, China warns of U.S. of forceful measures if Nancy Pelosi visits Taiwan. Right?
On Taiwan, though. So it's kind of just, to me, that smacks of unkind. Like, I'm going to come to your house. It'll piss off, this superpower. They will hurt you later, but I'll be long gone by then.
Well, and Russia says this,
Do you
right?
remember-
Russia says, sorry, David, Russia tells us what they're going to do, and then they do it. China is telling us, and I'll read, right? Here's what it says. Here's what the China's foreign ministry lashed out at the potential visit, saying it would have a severe negative impact on the political foundation of China-U.S. relations and send a gravely wrong signal to Taiwan independent separatist forces. If the U.S. insists on going down the wrong path, China will definitely take resolute and forceful measures to firmly defend its national sovereignty and territorial integrity. The United States must be fully responsible for all consequences caused by this. They're not mincing words here.
Yes.
They're expanding in the South China Sea. The United States just sent warships through the South China Sea last week, which was also seen as a provocation. They're opening 2 embassies in that part of the world as well. And this would literally be like China opening or putting warships like right off our coast of Florida, setting up new embassies, setting up new shop in the Bahamas, right? We would not stand for that, right? We would invoke the Monroe Doctrine, right? We would say that that's a violation of the Monroe Doctrine, and we would say, get out of here now. You're not allowed to be in Western waters. And here we are, literally surrounding China right now with battleships.
Well, did
Yeah.
you
What are they gonna
see?
do?
I think it was CNN that did this piece. I can't remember the which agency, but anyway, they did like a war game where what would happen if we had to go fight for Taiwan. Did you see that? Where they had like battleships and they were like
yes.
being all strategic. It was like Stratego.
It was Meet the Press.
Yeah, we covered that on the show.
Yeah, Meet the Press did
Yeah.
that whole ridiculous war games thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like we now all of a sudden the narrative is falling apart in Ukraine. People are on to what's going on, and so now it's like, okay, what do we got to do now? Well, we better start working on Taiwan because we're about ready to lose our money bag over here. We better start, focusing over here.
Right.
It
It just
that
feels
way.
like a game.
Yeah. And again, despite this sort of political play of the tweet that you put up from Michael Tracy, there still is no reason that tells us, why does the Speaker of the House, our Democratic Congress that is supposed to be focused on creating laws and passing laws inside of the United States, why does she have to travel like this, right? You would think that if you're the head of the Speaker of the House, you're pretty busy. Why do you have to go there? I'm serious question.
Yeah, and here is, if you take my screen up, sorry, hold on a second, Philip. Yeah, here it is. This was the Meet the Press. Meet the Press did this whole inside their war games, right? Meet the Press. The year is 2027. And they did this. The briefing. China is poised to attack Taiwan. Which side would prevail? Would China attack the United States mainland? Could nuclear war break out? Join us after the commercial break here on Meet the Press. We're going to have...
They played it like a game of Battleship, and I just find that really distasteful.
Yeah. Yeah, it would lead to massive war. I mean, this is exactly what happened.
And that's just how desensitized we are. I would love to know what the viewership on that, if they were like, wow, you know what? That was a successful event. We had like X amount of viewers for that. Let's do that again. I would have to think that was a abysmal ratings.
Maybe, I don't know, or people, war sells, right? I mean, we've seen this, right? CNN's ratings were in the toilet, MSNBC's ratings were in the toilet until the war in Ukraine broke out, and they went wall-to-wall coverage with it, of course, and ratings took off, right? So war sells. Look, it built CNN, for crying out loud, the first Gulf War, right? Wolf Blitzer standing there in Baghdad as bombs are exploding behind him. It put CNN on the map. It put Fox News on the map, for crying out loud, these wars. So. Yeah. But I mean, this is about American hegemony. Then this is the real story. So keep your eyes focused on China, guys, because this is the real story, and this is where things are going. Nancy Pelosi going to Taiwan. Forget Russia. Like, they've already gotten sick of it. They're going to fund it. They've gotten sick of it. But the real story is going to be China. We're going to talk about energy crisis in the United States in a moment. We're going to talk about what President Biden just did there this afternoon. It was unbelievable. So we'll talk about that, and we're also going to talk.
I think you missed a golden opportunity since he's the POTUS. That should have been potator, Biden.
Potator.
Yeah,
I had some potatoes for lunch today. Those potatoes are delicious.
I love potatoes. Ugh.
We also we have a website. Go to redacted.inc, not .com. It's redacted.inc. Sign up. We have a daily newsletter. It's totally free, delivered to your news inbox first thing in the morning. You can grab your Mandalorian mug and you can read it in about 5 to 10 minutes over your cup of coffee, your cup of tea, whatever it is. Let us know in the chat. What is your morning beverage of choice?
Or your Mandalorian mug. Let's not.
Natalie loves a good stiff
water
scotch.
First thing in the morning.
A nice stiff Morris.
Yes, she loves a stiff scotch first thing in the morning.
Boys, calm yourself. I'm going to get to our show sponsor because here.
All right, you do that.
You pipe down over there. I'm going to tell you about our show sponsor over at Podium.
My pipe is down.
If you know anyone
she was rubbing your leg earlier.
Boys.
Sorry, go ahead.
I'm going to go like this.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Tell us about Podium, please.
If you know anyone who owns a small business, you know that the past couple of years have been some of the hardest, and it is especially challenging to interact with your customers and stay in contact with them about all of the wonderful services that you offer, from supply chain issues to increased demand, on top of everything else that business owners have to manage. The businesses that are thriving right now are the ones that are forward thinking. And that's where Podium comes in. Podium helps your small business stay ahead of the curve with modern messaging tools that make it easy for your customers to connect with your business. Now, you know how hard it is to communicate with businesses. In fact, these days, it's all the rage to watch sort of people pull their hair out trying to communicate with airlines. You might have seen some pieces go viral about how customers are just super frustrated not being able to communicate with the businesses that they want to. Well, that's where Podium comes in, because so many people hate calling a business, would rather just send a quick message and then get a real answer. Podium gives businesses the tools to compete with the convenience offered by bigger businesses or huge companies like Amazon. From healthcare providers to plumbers, over 100,000 businesses are texting with customers through Podium. And customers love the experience of actually getting answers, right? And businesses love the results. One car dealer sold a $50,000 truck in just 4 text messages. A jeweler sold a $5,000 ring and coordinated curbside pickup, all through text, right? These things don't have to be as painful as all that. So you can see how Podium can grow your business. Watch a demo today at podium.com/redacted. That's podium.com, podium.com/redacted. Podium, let's grow. David recently sent me a clip of, who was that? The anchor?
Megyn Kelly.
Megyn Kelly, who
Yes,
lost
Megyn.
all of her baggage and was trying to get a real person through Air France, and it took her weeks and weeks to get her bags back because, travel is hell right now. And the whole story was her trying to send direct messages to Air France and continuously getting this sort of automated, "Hi, this is Pierre. How can I help you?" And she's like, "Pierre, I've explained this 8 times," right? And so that if you actually are able to send a few texts, get a real person, that's gold these days. I saw an old coworker of mine at CNBC, Courtney Reagan. Also, her family lost baggage on the way to Portugal, actually, and can't get a real person. This is like the customer service black hole of hell. So if there's any other way that you can interact with your customers, you should take it.
Yeah. All right. Please smash that like button. How many likes do we have? Why do we only have 5,000 likes, but we've got 10,000 people watching?
Hey, dudes.
Wow.
Come on. That's like double, right? Double. So just smash the like button. It really helps us push it out in the algorithm. That's how YouTube works. So please do that. Please do that. Please subscribe. We're here Monday through Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern time. We're almost at 1 million subscribers on the channel. So
that's very exciting.
1 million people subscribe. Think about what CNN's ratings are. We get more people watching our show than CNN does. Isn't that amazing?
Yes.
We put CNN Plus out of business.
Yes. We had more viewers than CNN Plus. Isn't that amazing?
Victory lap, you guys. We're trying to think, like, what would we do when we hit 1 million? I might eat a whole jar of peanut butter.
Yeah, what would we do?
I mean, I'll do the show naked.
Stream?
Yeah, on the stream. Just eat a whole jar of peanut butter.
I won't be able to talk very well.
Philip will be naked. Let us know in the chat what we should... Yeah. Natalie will be naked. It'll be a lot of nudity on the show. We'll just do the whole show naked.
Peanut butter?
Yeah. Naked.
Not those things together. That doesn't sound sanitary.
My sister-in-law said she's going to streak through the studio naked.
Yeah.
There's going to be a lot of nudity on the show.
That's not what you come here for.
Right.
Yeah. No, see, Siri is against this.
Siri is
We are
also.
no longer redacted.
That's right. Put a redacted over that.
Have you ever seen that commercial where they give, it was a Got Milk commercial from the 90s, I think, where someone gives a golden retriever a big dollop of peanut butter and the dog just like does this in the camera for 2 minutes, like, and they're like, "Got milk." That's how the whole show would do.
That's really good.
Can somebody link us to that commercial, please, if you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I do want to mention, I was going to mention something important now. Oh yeah, please. For those of you that are new here, if you're new here, let us know in the chat. If this is the first time ever seeing us, we'd love to welcome you. All you need to do is be a subscriber to chat with us. Just drop a subscribe and then you can chat here live. Let us know if you're new and let us know what country you're joining us from. We are live right now. Harry says, great show. Thank you so much, Harry. Appreciate that. Really, really appreciate that.
KX, I'm new. Thank you for joining us.
How many new people do we have here? Let us know if you're new. Let us know. Really, really appreciate that.
Joe says a vodka smoothie is what they're going to do. I mean, you should celebrate with us.
That's right.
Yeah. So if you want to have a vodka smoothie naked with peanut butter, do that.
Someone was asking, how did you guys come up with a name for the show? Well, because there was a day a few months ago where we were looking at changing the name of the show because we used to do the show in the morning and it was called Morning Invest and it didn't really fit anymore. So, and there were 2 stories that had redacted information in them. One was a story about the vaccines. Another story was about UFOs. And they were both government documents and they were both that had redacted black bars all through the name, all through the documents. And I said, that's the name of the show, Redacted. So we try to cover stories.
Yeah, I remember getting a text from you, and I was like, because we were sitting there brainstorming, we're like, what could it be the name? And then you're like, Redacted. I was like, yep. Instantly, I was like, that's it.
That's it. So that's what we do.
Like
we try to cover
2
stories.
days.
Yes, we try to cover stories here on the show. Sorry.
Go ahead, let Philip talk.
The
rule is to always let Philip talk.
You
finish your thing, and then I'll say my thing after you, because I'm busy taking my clothes off.
We try to cover the stories you're not going to see other places, stories that are often hidden by the mainstream media. So that's the point of this show. Go ahead, Philip.
Okay. No, I don't have anything to say. No, I was just going to say that it was funny because we changed the show name to Redacted, and literally the second or third day, we were covering something like from the FTC website. I think I said that wrong, but
yeah,
CDC. There we go. I don't know where I got the FTC website, and then YouTube shut us down for a week. And so it's we're redacted, and then YouTube says, "Yes, you are."
Yes.
Yeah. 2 days later, YouTube blocked us and censored us. That's happened multiple times here. That's why it's important for you to make sure you're connected with our website. So in case something happens to us, we are protected in that way. All right. Let's talk about some major news this afternoon from Camp Biden. Now, we were watching the Biden administration going to make this emergency climate meeting this afternoon and discussion. And as we were going on the air, we weren't sure exactly what the president was going to say, taking these emergency climate powers. But in fact, what he did was stopped short of declaring a climate emergency. So we thought he was going to do that. The update now is that he stopped just short of declaring a climate emergency, but did take steps on wind power. But what this means is, in many ways, is dictatorial. Like, you can say he can just stop short of a state of emergency, but this is taking power away from Congress and putting it in the hands of President Biden and the presidency. So here's Reuters. You're going to take my laptop here. Biden stops short of declaring climate emergency, takes steps on wind power. Okay. So U.S. President Biden said on Wednesday that climate change is an emergency, but stops short of a formal declaration. Okay. Announcing a modest packet, modest. I love how Reuters calls it a modest package of executive actions and promising more aggressive efforts. Okay. So modest, really? Let's go through some of these then, shall we? On what exactly is modest about this. Let's dive in here if we can. Let me see if I can pull it up here. You can take off my screen now because I got to go dig around for it. Natalie has it, though. No exports of U.S. energy. Okay? No exports of U.S. energy to other countries. No further drilling. Okay? No further drilling. So we're really making sure that the U.S. is not going to be able to get cheaper gas prices. We're not going to be able to maybe heat our homes this winter. The United States is going full on the green revolution.
Plus, no investments now in fossil fuel companies, right? Which is interesting because fossil fuel companies still get many tax breaks and incentives and all kinds of special treatment from the U.S. government. So will those things end too? I'm going to wager not. But we can say, well, we're not making new investments. A major push towards green energy. This, of course, goes against what the Supreme Court just ruled, which is that you can't regulate sort of out of the existing fossil fuel industry. But that is exactly what they're doing. Well, why, right? Why would the Biden administration do this? Because any climate packages that were put inside of Democratic packages have not been able to get past Congress. Just full stop, right? Because Joe Manchin has said he does not support these things. He does not support spending on them. So the president sort of feels like he has to do this. Now, may be somebody like me who thinks, yes, but I do feel like there is a climate emergency. I do have anxiety about the way the planet is hurting, right? I do feel like this is a time for extraordinary measures. But this gives the president, depending on how far he's going to go, it doesn't seem like he decided this week to go that far, but it could be just sort of dipping a toe into this idea of executive powers. And how far could this go, right?
This is really scary. I mean, you might have anxiety about this, right? And there's a reason why I might have some anxiety about it too, and we might all feel it. It's because we're constantly being told, and nightly newscasts, and constantly being told that we're in this dire emergency, right? We're being told that. We're being told that we're in this.
And it's extraordinary timing when everyone in the West is under, and anyone in the Northern Hemisphere is under these extreme heat waves, right? We feel it. We know that we have to make sacrifices with our air conditioning and our thermostat, and that kind of thing is happening, right? But if the president were to go as far as to declare a National Emergencies Act, right, this would give him powers to shut down or take over radio stations even, right?
So this is what you asked me to drop in here.
Yes, go ahead and pull this up. This would give him the power to, ban agricultural exports and freeze assets if the president deems such actions necessary to address a foreign threat. And in general, there is no requirement that the power invoked relate to the nature of the emergency. The president would be on the honor system. Now, this is the thing that gave me pause, because what's happening in Europe right now? Interesting, right? It's certain countries are saying there's a climate emergency. They're putting these some would call arbitrary, but we can agree that they are arduous requirements on farmers that may eventually put them out of business. And then the president would be able to seize certain lands if he decided that these are harming the environment. We don't know how far it would go and who it would hurt. And the worry here is what happened during COVID.
You're being too nice.
Let me just finish is that what happened during COVID, right? We all agree, okay, this is serious. We all should make sacrifices. Who makes sacrifices? People who are disenfranchised and less powerful than big corporations.
All right. But yes, no, okay, you're right about that. So it is the small people, right? It's the small farmers that would be absolutely crushed in the same way that, middle class and poor Americans got absolutely destroyed during the pandemic, right? It's the consolidation of power. When Biden administration cuts off 1,000 small pipelines that we don't even hear about, we just hear about Keystone, right? Thousands of small pipelines, right? The fossil fuel industry being run out, literally run out at a time when we have a crisis, right? We have an energy crisis. By the way, a man-made energy crisis by putting sanctions on Russia, by literally cutting down thousands of pipelines across the United States, making sure that we don't have any investment in fossil fuels.
By printing money out of control.
By printing $30 trillion or $5 trillion in the past few years.
Decommissioning nuclear power plants, which were cleaner than the power we use now.
Cutting off oil leases, right? When these companies have an opportunity to use it, you're pulling them right out from beneath them, right? So you're seeing an energy crisis of our own making. Western policies led by the Biden administration have led us into this energy disaster. It was all planned, guys. That's why I'm saying don't be nice about this. They planned this. They absolutely planned this.
Well, I just want to point out that if you look at the executive powers since 9/11, they have expanded the executive branch powers incrementally, and it's moving towards dictatorial. I mean, it is. If you look at the powers that they actually had, Obama was actually able to assassinate 2 U.S. citizens, and he had the power to do that without Congress. They don't even have to have Congress to declare war anymore. So it's they keep expanding those powers.
Were you saying moving towards dictatorship? I believe we're already there.
Yes, but every administration in the last 40 years has expanded executive powers, and it does not matter if they're Republican or Democrat. And no administration has come in and rescinded any of those powers. So the presidency, the executive branch, and the government continue to grow. It's a monster.
Since FDR,
that's when I kind of lost.
World War II.
And that's when I lost faith when Bush started the drone program, and then we had Obama, the peace candidate, right? Nobel Peace Prize winner, came in, and I'm like, okay, he's gonna get rid of the drone program. But what did he do? He expanded it by 400%. So it's it doesn't matter what party they're in, they expand those powers because that they obviously you have to have some kind of thirst for power to be in that position in the first place, I would think.
I want to go through some of the comments from the White House over the past 24 hours. And what you're hearing is this term about transition, right? You've heard it. We heard liberal world order a few weeks ago from Brian Deese, White House economic advisor. Now the White House is talking about, and this is coming right out of the mouths of the World Economic Forum, guys, transition. This transition period will be painful. This transition period will be painful for you. We need not the wealthy. It'll be painful for the poor and middle class. That's what will happen, right?
Yes.
Let's speed up to the Green Revolution. Here's a White House advisor on CNBC, on CNBC, talking about President Biden's energy plans. Listen to him talk about the transition. Keep hearing that word. Listen.
Want to create more incentives for more investments, not in coal-fired power plants, but into that energy future. And Joe, you know as well as I do, follow the money. Where are we going to be in 2030 and beyond is going to be more on renewables and more on electric vehicles. I'm not saying transitions are easy, and I'm not saying they're very fast. But we have to do everything we can to accelerate them, because otherwise, if we don't, that's when we're dependent on people who don't share our values.
Okay, so if you're a fossil fuel company, you just don't share our values, right? You don't share. You're trying to make sure that think about
You
the
know,
infrastructure
you
for a
can-
second on the diesel trucks, right? You want to accelerate this. These diesel trucks, right, that literally bring the fuel to the power plants that actually run the electric power plants, then that the electric cars are fueled off of. Like, how are you going to do that? If you're cutting back on the fossil, you're cutting back on this infrastructure, the rail lines and the coal and the diesel. How are you going to do
Are those
it?
the same? Are those the same values that got rid of the guy that invented the diesel engine to run on vegetable oil, and then they put something in it to make it so you can't make your own fuel? Is it those same values?
Oh yes, this guy. Oh, what is that? There's a documentary on this guy, right? He
Yeah,
like
the
we're
diesel
gonna-
guy. His
Is
name
it
was Diesel.
Doc Brown?
right? Where we're going, we don't need roads.
No, and Diesel was on his way to the United States to give a speech, and he somehow disappeared in the ocean on his way here, and nobody ever heard from him again. And he created the diesel engine so that farmers could use their crops to run their own machines and be self-sufficient. But they purposely take that diesel engine and put a thing in it now that it has to run fuel. Willie Nelson actually runs his bus off of vegetable oil and stuff, like off of a diesel engine. So it can be done, but you have to manipulate it. Where the way it was invented was to be that way originally.
So diesel is probably in the same place that Nikola Tesla went to, right? When you start creating
Probably.
stuff that's
Yeah.
that's not profitable, that you can't make money off of, you disappear. Like,
And I love
Yep.
how this dude on CNBC is like pretending he's a hippie, as if like, hey, you know, we're going to clean energy. It's going to be super great for the earth. When, you know, solar panels are made from silicone chips that take a lot of water, which are shipped around the world because the United States doesn't make them and put embargoes on them, which China has gone around, right? So this is not the clean, it's clean, but it's relatively clean, right? And so if you really want to like be not dependent on people who don't share your values, then you got to go off the grid. Then you got to be self-sustaining on your own farm, right? That's really the only way to do it, is to live off the land.
go Henry David Thoreau on his,
That's really it. So I don't want to hear any corporate speak about how you're so enlightened and hip because you drive a Tesla, right? Then no, that's full of contradiction. So really, if you're so like really committed to not living on companies or countries or energy that is inconsistent with your values, you can't be on TV. Then you got to shut up.
I love this side of you, turning me on.
What do you mean? It's just like, you know, everything has.
No, I just
you
like
sit
it.
on these leather seats in Tesla. Like, what's the carbon footprint of that? What's the carbon footprint of getting a solar panel? Like,
This
yes,
guy-
I'm all for it.
This guy goes to a CNBC studio in New York City. He took a Lincoln Town car that they sent him. Right?
Yes,
Right?
I've been in many of those.
That these and he's a guest on television. Of course, they're bringing him. They're all.
And
of that.
he's like, "Oh, this is where the money's going to be. That's where."
And how many
this is where
screens
it's
did he
gonna
have
be,
running?
Right? Sure, it's all right for some, right?
Right,
and it's
But the transition, you're going to have to feel it, right? So CNBC did a good job.
like you're a real hippie, dude. I'm sure you're eating eggs from your own ass chickens.
Your own ass chickens. Dude, I love this side of you. What
I
is
mean,
an
you
ass
can't out
chicken?
hippie
Just
me,
sorry.
right? Like, so don't even try. And I am somebody who always wants to think about how to like get off the grid, how to be more natural. I ate my own placenta, but I don't know what that has to do with anything. I'm just telling you, I'm a big hippie, right? I'm that person. But I don't want to hear someone saying like, oh, we're so much better than everyone else because we're moving to this type of energy. What?
I just
Did
please.
you eat it
I just want you to.
deep-fried,
I just want you
like
to.
sushi?
Yeah, I just want you to clip that piece, and we're just going to run that anytime.
You can't unhippie me. I ate
own
my placenta.
Just going to drop that in at random comment moments.
Encapsulated as a pill.
As a pill, okay.
Yes.
Because it helps with milk production and so forth.
It absolutely does. Okay. I'm just telling you.
All these people in there, they're like, what? You did what?
I mean, I'd eat mine if I could, being honest.
Oh my God.
All right. So,
So
I'm
can I go
just
back to
saying
what I was
that
gonna
guy
say?
fails on the hippie scale. Like
Yeah.
he's
Someone
just
said,
saying where
oh,
the
no, she did not.
Yes, I did.
Oh my, this lady is crazy, Thomas said.
fine.
Yes. She's
I don't care what you say about me.
bat,
I ate placenta pills.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
bat
What's
shit
the guy-
crazy.
I'm pretty sure we just made the hippie bar like unobtainable for the majority
Come
of the
at
people
me,
on
bro.
Earth. Like,
Come at me.
What's the guy's name
I
that
use
did
cloth
that gave all of
diapers.
his employees raises?
Oh, man.
The tree hugger guy that gave all of his employees
Dan
$70,000.
Price. Yeah, Dan Price.
Dan Price, yeah. He's no Dan Price, that guy.
I bet we just out hippie Dan Price with that. All right, so
Yep.
CNBC did a really fantastic job of actually pressing White House Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg on this issue, pointing out that this utopia of moving towards a green revolution was poorly planned. Listen to now Joe Kern over at CNBC. He takes a long time to ask a question, okay? He took like a minute to ask this question, but it's a really interesting way of getting to this question, and watch Mayor Pete's response to this.
I have kind of a philosophical question about how we approach things in terms of dealing with emissions and dealing with trying to cut down on the use of fossil fuels, and how we deal with what Europe might be facing. And what I mean by that is there are real possibilities that people might not have air conditioning during a heat wave, or in the winter that they may not have enough energy to heat their homes at this point. Now, the mitigation factors that we're employing to try to cut down on emissions, those really aren't going to cut CO2 emissions till probably 2030. And while we're dealing with these, we've got India building coal plants, we've got China building coal plants, just hand over fist and emitting and not really helping our efforts whatsoever. When wind and solar won't power the homes in Europe, how do we not use hydrocarbons to make sure that near term these people aren't either freezing or dying from the heat? It seems like a real quandary at this point to try to do these, to near term try to do these things when near term we need power, we need energy. So how do you declare,
well, I will say,
how do you declare a climate crisis in the middle of an actual weather crisis?
Well, look, obviously those two things are closely related. I mean, it's more than 100 degrees in London today, or at least it was yesterday. We've seen things happen in the Pacific Northwest in the U.S. that are supposed to be basically all but statistically impossible, and they're happening more and more often. But this is what a transition looks like, right? This is exactly the challenge that we're living through. You can't flip a switch. You can't do it overnight.
Oh, but you can. You're full of shit. You can flip a switch, because that's exactly what you guys did. You flipped a switch. You shut down all of this stuff. You flipped a switch. You cut down, you literally ended thousands of pipelines. You flipped a switch on the Keystone Pipeline. You flipped a switch.
Yeah.
You can do it overnight. You are full of shit.
That's what the pandemic taught us. We turned off everything. During the pandemic,
Yeah.
we shut down all business.
That's what you did.
Sure.
So you can do that. And so again, we come back to the word transition. Here you go again. Here you go again. You know, it's the transition, the word transition over and over again. This is what a transition looks like, he says. He's actually astonished. He was actually asked this separately. He had the audacity, he had the balls, Mayor Pete did, to actually say that he's astonished that more people haven't bought electric cars yet. We've been screwing them over by cutting off all these fossil fuel pipelines and everything, and the gas prices are so high. I'm astonished that you haven't spent $60,000 to buy an electric car yet, you morons. Listen.
I'm still astonished that some folks, and I felt this, I was testifying in Congress yesterday, some folks seem to really struggle to let go of the status quo.
They're just struggling to let go of that gas car that they bought with their own money, and he can't believe it. He really can't believe that this is something that they won't let go of. It's, I mean, really astonishing. And it's so condescending.
Okay, but then we should ask you, Secretary of Transportation, why the United States is so slow in the rollout of charging stations, right?
Yeah, the infrastructure is awful.
Because we have to drive places, right? It's a chicken or egg. I'm back on the chickens today.
Yeah.
It's a chicken or egg type thing, right? And it's not a lack of desire. Nobody likes going to get gas. It's like going to a slot machine that just takes your money, right? These days. So it's not like there's a resistance because there's lack of desire. But again, you know, every time I talk about this stuff with my dad's like, well, where's this energy going to come from? It costs water to make electricity, a lot of it, right? And so if everyone is running on electricity, electric cars, electric houses, right? Where's that going to come from? Like, we need to ask, we need answers to those things before we just think that there are these magical green things that we all buy into, like the Clean Air Act that we just talked about, which actually made the air dirtier. We need to understand these things before we all commit to them.
I mean,
But
by
just don't
2030,
ever-
just to get solar and wind, like as Joe pointed out in that piece, like it's going to take that freaking long to get any of this stuff up and running. And by the way, when it is up and running and you see what Europe is dealing with solar and wind, like it's not enough.
Yeah.
It's not enough.
Well,
It's
and
not.
just if you ever come up with a technology on your own that is more sustainable, do not tell anyone, because you will end up. There was a guy that created an engine that ran on it was hydrogen, and it could got 99 miles to the gallon. Guess what? They disappeared him, and they bought the patent. The government bought the patent, buried it. Same as they did with the batteries. Remember the battery thing where they bought the patents for this battery that lasted longer than the lithium ones we use now, and they buried the patent.
Yeah, because there's no money in it, right? If you can't keep buying these things and it's going to last you a lifetime, they want you to buy them every year, right? I mean, this is the tragedy of it all. And the White House says, again, this is the transition. It was all part of the plan. Here is another White House commentary that he was Amos Hochstein. Here he is, not in the CNBC studio this time. Here he is on the White House lawn talking about this transition. And listen to him talk about it multiple times. So they're really pushing this idea that you're going to have to deal with this pain through Putin's price hike to live in this transitionary period. Listen.
So it's about making a choice between what is the short term and the medium term, so that we can make sure we have enough oil and gas to support us through the transition, and what are the kind of steps that we don't want the oil and gas industry to take that would have long-term consequences, when we don't want new major projects that would take 20, 30 years to become profitable. So we have to make that differentiation to make sure that the American consumer has what it needs to grow our economy and the global economy, but not take steps and endanger the climate work that we're trying to do to make sure that we're on a better footing to accelerate the transition. So it's about...
Sorry, I was trying to pause there at the very end there, Philip, because I wanted to see, like, you have all these guys in the White House lawn mowing the yards.
Yes.
With gas-powered.
On gas-powered mowers.
Making a choice.
Look at this guy. He's like over his shoulder, literally, with gas-powered motors. Like, and you see that, like, the trucks are going by, all the landscaping crew using all gasoline. I mean,
Impeccable timing.
It's unbelievable. Hey, we're going to have a guy go out and talk about clean energy and how Americans are paying more for gasoline and how you can't have your gas-powered cars. Let's make sure all of the lawnmowers are right out here at the same time, mowing
Using
the White
gas.
House. Using gasoline on the White House
That
lawn
you can't have. The government can afford it. though.
They don't make electric mowers, do they? Oh wait, yeah,
Yes, they do.
I
They
have
do.
one.
I have one. Yeah, it's one of the Ego. I have one of the Ego ones, the EV Go.
Yeah,
or
that's what I
whatever they
have.
say. Yeah, the lithium-ion battery ones.
Do they make ride-on ones?
I don't know about that.
Not that I've seen that. They probably do, but I've not seen one.
Here's Gina McCarthy. Gina McCarthy, another White House climate nut. She's the White House climate advisor, talking about how we are needing to move towards wind power as quickly as possible. Listen.
He's going to make it clear that just because Congress couldn't get it done, he is going to move forward with every power available to him to make the change and the shift to clean energy.
Can you quiet down back there? Because you're running the yard mower back. I'm trying to talk here on CNN. Can you quiet down back there?
Should we have a talk about noise pollution?
Right.
While we're at it?
Can you stop with the gas-powered leaf blowers, please? I'm on TV here. I'm doing television.
I just, I'm losing track of all the things that we're told need executive action because the courts are failing us, Congress is failing us. Like, is this a democracy where everything does require now executive action?
This is not a democracy
ask-
at all anymore. I mean,
Can I ask
first of all,
what
we were
actually
a
does
republic,
work?
but, yeah.
What is working right now?
Like, what is one thing that's working right now? Give me one example of something that's actually working. I mean, maybe Medicare.
Maybe the post office? Is the post office working right now? Can you get a letter to somebody? I mean, it's better than it is.
Yeah.
in
I think so.
Corporatocracy.
Well, hey, I mean, okay, you want me to find the silver lining? We're broadcasting, and we are not supported by the mainstream media, and we have no relationship with any one government. We are broadcasting.
But we gotta walk
I know
on eggshells.
we've got rules that we don't love, right? But the fact that we're all here right now, all 10,000 of you and all 5 of us, means that you have democratized, you have chosen something outside of the mainstream media that is different, that's just a little bit different. And so that seems to be working right now. There are a lot of rules that continue to be put on us that we don't like. That seems to be that, you know, the powers that be don't want that to happen. So that's one thing.
Someone said in the chat that national parks are working. All right, so land, a mountain is working.
Nature is still working.
Yeah, Yellowstone is still working. The wolves in Yellowstone are still working and going after sheep or whatever.
Well, I mean, it costs what I went to go through the Grand Canyon, and I got there just as it was closing, and I got to the gate, and they're like, it's $20, and I was like, it's $20 to get it. So no wonder the parks are doing good, because they charge $20 to see natural things.
You went to Wally World. You went to the wrong park.
Yeah.
You're like, I'm not going to pay that. Here are my binoculars.
Right.
Yeah. $20, I'm turning around.
Our giant board is working. If you become a subscriber, a free subscriber to the channel, your name will pop right up here on the, just hit subscribe and your name will pop right up here on the screen. See if you can try it. Just hit subscribe and boom, we're almost at 1 million subscribers. So thank you to all of you who subscribe to our channel. There's a new subscriber. Guitarzan. KP Guitarzan.
Guitarzan. He was a guitar man.
Like it.
Wasn't that Mel Tillis? Who was that saying that?
Ray Stevens.
I Veil.
Ray Stevens, yeah. Yeah, it was.
Ray Placenta. All right.
Eat him if you got him.
Eat
Let's
them if you got them.
let's head down to Mexico, shall we? And talk about Mexico's energy moves. Here's Ben Norton. Ben Norton, a great journalist. You should follow him. Very few independent journalists out there, and he's one of them, and he's an excellent journalist. He says this: the U.S. government is attacking Mexico for nationalizing its energy industry. The U.S. claims that it violates the neoliberal trade agreement, the NAFTA 2.0 agreement, basically. Wall Street is complaining that what Mexico is doing is hurting U.S. corporations. The U.S. wants Mexico to re-privatize its resources.
So what the United States is saying here is, because Mexican oil is government controlled, they don't like it because U.S. companies cannot get in there and compete. This on the heels of President Labrador coming to the White House just last week and saying, we got affordable gas.
Right.
So
That is the
Americans are
exact
coming
same
down
thing.
and getting some. They're crossing the border to fill up a little bit cheaper. And the United States says, we can't have that. You're embarrassing us.
That's the exact same thing that prompted the attempted coup in Venezuela right there. Same exact situation.
So here's El Economista. If you take my screen here, this is, yes, this is a website. This is in Spanish. Let me just do a little translate move here for you to English so you can see what this says. Energy nationalism takes Mexico to the dock of the accused in TMEC. Okay, so the United States initiated the process to set up a dispute settlement panel against Mexico within the framework of the treaty between Mexico, the United States, and Canada. Citing 2 Mexican sources, the consultation of a draft announcement, the agency said the United States will initiate consultations on the measures taken by Mexico that, according to the U.S. commercial representatives, harm U.S. companies in Mexico and the energy produced in a neighboring country. This is according to the White House commercial representatives there. U.S. companies continue to face arbitrary treatment and more than $10 billion of investment in Mexico, mainly in renewable energy facilities. More than ever, they are at risk, he sent to the Mexican government last March. In the same letter, he added, for a long time, the United States government has raised serious concerns about the series of administrative, regulatory, and legislative changes in Mexico's energy policies that violate these fundamental obligations, including the changes to the Electricity Industry Act of 2021. Now, it's interesting to think, who actually pushed all of this? Who pushed this, right? Who was the person that actually pushed this? Holly writes this on Twitter. Holly Blomberg says, always remember who pushed Mexico to privatize in the first place. Who was it? Anybody in our chat? I'm not going to put it up on the screen. Can anybody name in our chat right now Who pushed Mexico to privatize?
Do you want me to say it or no?
No, I just want to wait. Just give it a second. You guys all type here in the chat. Let us know. Who
The Dalai
pushed?
Lama.
The Dalai Lama? No, it was not the Dalai Lama.
Putin.
It was not Putin, although we're going to probably blame Putin now for it.
Noriega.
Noriega? Someone says, what about the USA? The USA. Yes, USA, but one person in particular. Here it is.
Fauci.
Buffalo Bill.
No, let's put it up on the screen. Here it is. Hillary Clinton. Right? She wanted Mexican energy reform in Mexico and the move towards privatization. So
we know this from emails that came from her private server, right? This is not something that we should otherwise know, but we know. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. You can take it.
Oh, okay.
Take it and run with it, little lady.
All right. So emails originally stored on her server from the State Department talked about how she was interested in helping to break state-owned company Pemex oil and gas industry monopoly in Mexico and opening up the country to international oil and gas companies, right?
Right. Yeah. So again, this is helping Mexico, right? So yes, open it up to oil and gas companies from international investment to come in and be able to do that. And guess what? Canada's gas prices are so Canadians are going across the border to come into the United States to get cheaper gas, where gas is skyrocketing, right, in the United States. And then Americans are going across the border to Mexico to get cheaper gas, right? And the United States is pissed about it.
The traffic. The traffic would be dead because it's like they're at least moving in the same direction, so it's not it's not like the U.S. is going into
Yeah, they're all going
did
one
Abbott
way.
and Costello write this?
I know. And, I love this. In Reuters today, the reporting of the story, it says the U.S. and Canada are pushing Mexico on this trade agreement. Canada's trade ministry later told Reuters that it was, quote, supporting the U.S. in their challenge. It's like us too, like the United States is doing this and Canada's like, we're on board. We're going to do that too.
Well, just think about the balls that the United States has to say. And this just goes to show you again the collapse of the U.S. hegemony, right?
The huevos.
The huevos, think about they're able to say, wait a second, so you're improving your own lot in life down there in Mexico, right? You've been dealing with corruption, you've been dealing with crime, you've been dealing with all sorts of problems, right? Drug crime, you name it, right? Economic problems. Now you're improving the life for Mexicans by moving towards privatization of your energy sector. And we want to stick it to you now. Now we want to come in and say, you can't do that because U.S. Wall Street companies are hurting. Mm-hmm. We are really concerned about Wall Street companies. So Mexico, you got to go back on your...
You got to be having expensive gas like us. You can't be doing good down there. It's our whole thing that you're not doing good. So stop it.
The other points of all of this is around using gas as a weapon, right? We talk about it as it relates to Vladimir Putin, using gas as a weapon. So Ursula von der Leyen made these statements yesterday. She said Russia is using gas as a weapon. We have to address our energy security at the European Union level. We learned from the pandemic that if we act in unity, we can address any crisis. So let's act together to reduce gas and provide a safety net for all EU countries. It's okay for some people to use gas as a weapon, but other people can't.
What does she mean, to reduce gas? That means that we all collectively decide to reduce consumption? Because that's not usually aligned.
Buy electric cars, I think, is what she's saying.
Yeah,
perhaps,
like everybody else.
But conservation is not usually a line that politicians take. They never say reduce consumption.
Well, here's what Benjamin Norton says about Ursula's comments. He says, when the neocolonialist claims Russia is using gas as a weapon, it's not. What she really means is Russia won't give Europe its gas for free. She's the leader of the EU, which imposed brutal sanctions on Russia, causing energy prices to skyrocket, but she blames Moscow. So again, why won't you give us your gas for free in Mexico? Why won't you, make sure that we have access to these things for free?
But it also
we'll go to Syria and steal your oil.
Speaks to the fact that the United States doesn't want any government to have control of its own gas pipeline that's not the right word, but of its own gas infrastructure, because the United States has this constant fear that it will not continue, that the world will not continue to use the dollar to trade oil. So if Mexico has this extra bit of autonomy, the United States absolutely does not like it and wants to break it up because of this constant fear that oil could be traded on the petro yuan or the petro ruble or any other currency besides the U.S. dollar. So that's something that must
Well, and that's
be
the
prevented.
thing. I just feel personally like there's an awakening happening with all these other countries around the world where they're just like, look, the United States, you guys have just been the bullies of everything. Like, we have to own all the oil, we want all the land, we want all the water. Anytime, look at world fruit. Anytime we want something like pineapple, we not only do we take the fruit, we take your country. Like right. That's just what we've done. And so this is going to come back to bite us in the ass big time, and I think it's starting to happen.
I think we're seeing it now. I think we're seeing the fracturing of it, right? And I'm working on a piece now about American imperialism. I haven't finished writing it yet, but just showing like we don't talk about it, but it's just as bad, if not worse, than what we talk about with British colonialization and so forth. And the areas you're talking about where we go in and we just take what we want. We don't talk about it. We do it quietly because Americans hate imperialism, right? We hate colonialization. We threw off the shackles of Britain, right? For that very reason. But we go into Syria and we steal their oil like we did last week, right? We go into Puerto Rico and take what we want there, like on sugarcane and what else?
We tried to overthrow Venezuela's government just recently.
Right. Yeah. Admittedly by John Bolton, who admits to to doing exactly that.
Yeah. We're not even hiding it anymore. It used to be like CIA secret ops, but now it's like CNN and they're bringing on CIA operatives talking about it like it's cool.
And remember that, Hillary Clinton quietly and privately was saying that this is the move for Mexico, which brings me to my little bonus Hillary Clinton story, just as we round things out for the show today.
Oh, okay.
There are signs, according to Dick Morris and others, that Hillary Clinton is going to run again in 2024. That's right. One of the great political rematches of all time is what Dick Morris says. Former top advisor to Bill Clinton claims that Joe Biden will be forced to step aside. Hillary Clinton is going to step in his place, who's preparing to run again in 2024. The prediction was made.
Please tell me this is like The Onion or something like that. That is not true. Like, do they not learn?
No, they don't learn. They think that this is the only hope for the Democratic Party, right, is Hillary Clinton, I guess. We've been hearing Gavin Newsom's name being thrown around over the past few days. Kamala Harris, of course not, who can't string a sentence together. Joe Biden probably won't finish out his term. So who are they going to put in his stead to run against Donald Trump in 2024? Hillary Clinton, I guess.
I have no words.
Or Gavin Newsom. George Soros just lined up a whole lot of money for Beto O'Rourke. So George Soros funding Beto O'Rourke. This is what Democrats have for you right now. This is amazing.
Okay. I mean, selfishly, I want that to happen because it would mean we'd have lots of things to talk about here.
Right.
And it would make our jobs a little bit easier.
I don't know. It'd make it worse because then you literally would see the absolute collapse of the United States. I mean, you have people who are part of the cabal.
Okay, then what I said was just too selfish.
Yeah, it's just totally selfish because then it was.
And also,
it's the full collapse.
They put together the task force for online harassment and abuse just in time, because if Hillary starts to run, well, guess what? She's a woman, and that memorandum, specifically says women and LGBT plus community. So anybody who is negative towards her would potentially be in trouble federally as a online using technology hate crime. So we probably wouldn't be able to go after Hillary Clinton.
Yeah, I guess.
But I am a woman. I could. Maybe that would.
Well,
I don't
know.
You
can't go after me.
Hold on a second.
Then.
Do we have Merriam-Webster today change the term of female?
Yeah.
Can we put this back up? This was today. Merriam-Webster dictionary changed the term and updated the term female. So what it actually means now. Do you qualify?
Yes, I do.
You sure?
Yes, I do.
Are you sure according to this definition?
I don't see anything. It doesn't say anything about eating placentas in there. So
yeah.
No, but that makes me a super female.
Oh.
Like
okay.
Extra, because I can not only have the capacity to produce eggs, I also can
Now, I can't have a baby, but I have chickens that lay eggs. So does that make me also?
No.
Would I qualify?
No, you
under
can't.
This definition?
You have the capacity to produce eggs, but it has to be inside the capsule of your body.
What if I put a chicken under my shirt? Sorry, I don't know.
It's ridiculous.
Well, I mean, I have a legitimate question on that, but like so by that definition, and I'm kind of a literal person, but if you were born without the capacity to produce young or eggs, then are you just neither? Like if you present have like female genitalia, but you were born like without the ability to actually get pregnant, which does happen.
Right. Yeah,
What?
because there are women who are. Do we use the term barren anymore, or is that offensive? Infertile.
I have to check
don't.
my offensive book because it's updated daily.
If you're
like, on what's
infertile, that
offensive.
does not make you a woman. So yeah, and again, I feel like these definitions are extremely binary. I thought we were supposed to agree that there is a spectrum of at least gender identity. The piece about gender identity says that you have to identify as the opposite of a man, which is like I said, extremely cis. But okay, we can talk about this another time. I really don't want to get ourselves in trouble and.
Yeah,
Right.
let's please not. We know what YouTube likes to do. All right.
But again, I think that wouldn't I be, by this definition of like non-bullying of women, then if someone said what I said was not right, then I could claim that they're bullying me.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. It's like there are legitimate criticisms you can make of Hillary Clinton, but the thing is, if they pass something like this, then that makes it so they'll use that to say that it's not legitimate, and the only reason you're doing it is because she's a woman. And that's what tends to happen all the time. It's like if you have an actual critique of a politician, they'll say, well, you're being sexist because that's a woman or whatever. But it's like she has so many critiques that you can make on her for her policies, for her past. And that's what I worry about, is that all gets brushed under the rug.
Yeah. Someone in the chat says, wait a minute, Clayton, you have a political correctness handbook? No, I was joking. There's no, I'm just joking that we can't keep track of all the things that are offensive these days, right? So it's constantly being updated.
Yeah, Merriam's dictionary must be a good thing for that. So
like I buy like it's a self-filling book. I buy it like this at the store, and then the next day it's this big, and it just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
I suppose. Well, let me not ask you guys. I don't know, Philip, what do you think? Is the term barren something you're not supposed to use is that an offensive term?
I mean, it's an old term, which just automatically makes me think probably a bit, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't have the book that Clayton has, but I have a 16-year-old daughter that goes to Portland public schools, so it's basically like I'm the one writing that book because I get from her everything
I think you're
you
supposed to
can't
say,
say, you know.
I think you're supposed to say desert now.
Desert, not barren. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Desert or
yeah.
Who
knows? Let's look it up. Let's
Yeah,
find
who
out
knows?
what
It does sound
you
like
can't
maybe
keep up with it.
Yeah.
Maybe I shouldn't say that. I don't know. A lot of people
I
deal
never
with
worry.
infertility,
I never worry
and
about that
I want
stuff
to.
personally.
I guess we'll find out. If they take us off YouTube, we'll find out if it was offensive or not. Okay, we've got, we want to get to some super chats here in a moment. I want to tell you about our friends over at Nugenics. So let's talk about how getting older right now. I mean, look, we're all getting older, right? It's changing your body. Maybe you get a little bit of the dad bod, feeling a little less like yourself lately. You don't have time to work out, but you want the energy and you want the body that you used to have. Well, Nugenics is the way to help you feel amazing and revived. That's right. It's not your fault if you can't get in shape. You know, as men age, bodies naturally lose free testosterone, the man hormone. Maybe Merriam's dictionary would change our definition, right? It happens to every man. It can make it more difficult to stay in shape and be energetic and active. So if you want more energy to counter the negative physical effects of aging, that's where Nugenics Total T Testosterone Booster with Testofen comes in. It'll help you turn back the clock, re-energize your workouts, get your better results at the gym, and help you look and feel like the man you really want to be. All right? So Nugenics Total T contains man-boosting key ingredients like testosterone. It has been validated in 5 clinical studies shown to boost free testosterone levels in men. Because Nugenics Total T boosts free testosterone that the aging process robs you of, you're going to feel stronger, leaner, with more energy in your drive. And more passion, too. Your partner will notice the difference. Right, honey? Nugenix Total. She's shy about it. Nugenix Total T is the #1 selling testosterone booster at GNC. And guess what? You can get a complimentary bottle, right? You're going to get a free bottle of their Nugenix Total T when you text the word redacted to 231-231. So grab your phone, text the word redacted to 231-231. Text now and you get a bottle of Nugenix Thermo, their most powerful fat incinerator ever, with key ingredients to help you get back in shape fast. Absolutely free. You're going to get this for free when you text the word redacted to 231-231. That's redacted. You got to text that word to 231-231. Message and data rates may apply. Terms apply. Available at nugenix.com/terms. Our thanks to Nugenix. All right. And our thanks to all of you. I hope you guys are subscribed to the channel. Please make sure you're subscribed. Your name will pop up here on the big board if you are. But we're almost at 1 million subscribers. So thank you to all of you for...
Yeah, and I love some of these usernames. It's a long story. Line dance for health. Thank you so much. I like to line dance too. So
someone said bitch and mug. Thank you. Yes, this is my Mandalorian mug.
That's not is that a username?
It'd be a great username.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Damien Lightning. Damien by Lightning. Thank you so much.
Robert Lang says Clayton's definitely taking Nugenix tonight. That's right. That's why I've got a lot of energy. But see, I'm like a night owl, so I come alive at this time of the day, don't I?
Yes, you do. And I turn into a pumpkin.
She goes the opposite.
Yeah.
Like, all right. Honey,
I loved how last week I was giggling today thinking about the comment last week where I was talking about how Trump used to call people low energy. And I thought, boy, I really hope nobody calls me that. And someone in the chat room said, medium energy. It's like, I'll take it.
So, yeah, Natalie's not low energy Natalie tonight. She's, because where we are in Europe.
I took my placenta pill.
It's 11 p.m. where we are right now in Western Europe. So, yes, it's 11 p.m. where we are.
I know it's an outdated term, but I would say Natalie is a Spitfire this evening.
I'm a Spitfire.
So I don't know if that's offensive or not.
No, not as long as you don't say she's not a Baron Spitfire.
You're a Baron Spitfire, yeah. Clark. All right. Any super chats that we want to get it?
Yes. We have several. All right. Hex to the moon. This is a test of my VIP loyal member. Nah, I'm just flexing. Love you guys.
Thank you so much.
Received. We're picking
Hex
up
has
what
been
you're putting
a member
down.
they've been around a long time.
Yes.
The Iranian Putin, I identify as a platypus.
Okay, cool.
We were playing Pictionary with the family the other night, and platypus was the word that I chose, and I was like, that's a little too difficult. I was like, because my kids probably don't know what a platypus is, but that was my word.
Not the 5-year-old.
Because I set my level to hard for Pictionary, and I was like, okay, I'm going to draw this. I don't even know if I'd be able to draw a platypus.
I think the older ones would know.
Older ones, yeah, maybe. I don't know about the kids.
Antoniak 1234. It's likely the U.S. is greenlighting attacks on Russian soil. Ukraine has gotten 300 km HIMARS rockets.
Yeah.
300 kilometers.
We'll find out. Kilometers, yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, I just lost the...
Yes, in the New York Times piece that we mentioned, where the person who was supportive, the military analyst, I believe, who was supportive of the war, did say that it feels like a very Bay of Pigs type conflict, and that, Russia is sort of thinking was that there are military personnel who are sort of withholding this final attack inside Russia, but who knows at this point. So it's a good point.
Raymond Piper, just sitting here waiting for the bomb. Boomer 50, dude, the white glasses? Yes, white glasses.
Man, those white glasses are incredibly divisive.
They really are. Like I get some really harsh comments about these glasses.
From Philip?
From your brother?
No, not from Philip. Yeah. Wait, really? Come say him to my face.
Yeah, but I say him to Grim. Grim is my sounding board. Hey, if I'm mad at you, I yell at Grim.
No more threats now. I mean it.
Anybody want a peanut?
Raymond Piper, nuclear madness will end current woke madness.
Oh, Well, is that preferable?
Wait, what was it? What will?
He says nuclear madness will end woke madness.
Oh, God, it'll end us all. It'll end us all, right?
Okay. That's a very pessimistic viewpoint, and I'm going to have to think on that one.
But he's
Simone.
Yeah, he's right about that, though, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it would end a lot of stuff. Events Simonis, in your opinion, Clayton, does nuclear attacks occur
Wrong.
before the end of this year?
Oh my God. I don't think, I have to believe in my heart, like cooler heads will prevail on a nuclear, any kind of a nuclear strike. I mean, why in the world would Russia launch a nuclear strike in Ukraine, right, in their backyard? That would be like us,
right?
Doing that in Canada or Mexico, right? We would destroy. I mean, no way. I don't.
Just look at history. Just look at history. Who's the only country to ever have dropped a nuclear weapon ever?
United States. Yeah.
Right. I don't think other countries are that dumb. I think they only have them to defend themselves from us.
Well, it's always been seen as a deterrent, right? The idea of getting a nuclear weapon is just to be a deterrent. It elevates you to the world stage, right? That's it. Mm-hmm. You get to become a member of like the G7. Like if you've got a nuclear weapon, now you can talk. If you don't, then you're Ghana and we don't want to talk to you. We'll invade you for your mineral resources, but we don't want to talk to you, right? This was the whole reason that Libya wanted one, right? This is exactly what Gaddafi talked about.
Well, in North Korea, I mean, and Iran, these people just want to be part of the conversation. And if the nuclear bomb is or a weapon is the only way to do that, then what are they left to do?
Yeah. Well, even Iran, Khamenei this week, Iran this week said that they have all the pieces together for a nuclear weapon. Like they just haven't decided if they want to put them all together yet, but they have them. And as Larry Johnson, our CIA analyst we talked to last week, said, they will get a weapon. They will get a bomb, and it's going to happen very, very soon.
Yeah.
There you go. Go ahead.
Jaden, Ursula V. D. Leyen is heavily invested in this because of her European digital decade. This is all about photonic quantum semiconductors.
I love that you call it VD, by the way. I have to start referring to her.
Simonis, again, United States of Silicon Valley, gazillions. That must have been in reference to something, but I'm not sure yet.
That was in where do you live and what's the military budget? I did see that at the time. Yeah.
Clarence, #sec, #ank, #stop farm murders. Not sure what that is.
Well, the destruction of the farms? I mean...
Yeah, but where?
Everywhere.
Netherlands. Yeah, I mean, everywhere.
Cooler King 74. So how are they going to fill these military jobs? Every service has a lot of empty spots. Maybe a draft coming?
Oh.
Wouldn't that make it more of a buy-in? Right? I mean, or having, conscription, I mean, or have mandatory. This is an argument actually that Vivek Ramaswamy writes about in his book, Woke Capitalism. He talks about the fact that these countries that have like mandatory military as part of
Israel, right? Isn't Israel one of those?
Israel in part. There's a section there's a group of people in Israel that don't have to do it, and so there's conflict there internally, but there's other countries that do, and it shows there's a buy-in. Like, we're all in this together. There's not rich people getting out of it, and poor people are the only ones doing it. We're all in it, and we have to see why we don't want to ever have to use it. Think
about this. Think about this. If, let's say that the current politicians, the ones that refuse to send their kids, imagine if their kids were automatically in, maybe they would be less likely to fight so hard for war.
Yeah, all of the senators and members of Congress, if they knew that their sons and daughters had to go to Ukraine or had to go to Syria or these other war zones. Well, at this point,
it's their grandchildren and great-grandchildren because Congress is so old right now. So Congress wouldn't care very much. Again, we've talked about the problem of having a representative government that is so much older than the average American, that this, and this is another thing, is like climate change. They're going to live long enough to have all the things that they need, right? It's about the children. It's about the next generation.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, this is a very cynical view, but I think any congressperson, like, If you said your kid has to go to war, I think they'd be fine with that because that's political favor. But if you said you have to pay personally some of the money to send them there, then they would have issue. Then they'd be like, wait, not my money.
Right.
Like, you can have my kids,
Yeah.
but not my money.
Yeah.
Yeah. David Dean, the human juggernaut. It sickens me how these politicians never learn all this pointless spending leads to nowhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. Same.
Sylvain Racine, looking forward to your talk about Pelosi and Taiwan. I read what some Taiwanese think about it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Raymond Piper, will you stay online when the bombs fall, please?
We'll be here.
Only if it's in New York, I think, right? Stay on YouTube and check your phone and your media.
Yes. We'll do our best.
Tarot Man Harris, I joined 2 days ago. Love your show. Greetings from Australia.
Oh, good day,
Hello.
mate.
Yvette Simonis, celebrate your 1 millionth subscriber threshold with sweet potato fries dipped in syrup.
You do that.
Like, I love Vince Simonis, like random platypus and eating sweet potato fries dipped in syrup. I was onto it with the sweet potato fries. I'm like, that sounds delicious up until the part where you mentioned syrup.
Yeah.
I was like, give me some how about some ranch dressing? I'll do that. Try that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Truth Searcher. As a father of 5, George, I feel the same about Thick Liz. If it wasn't so scary, I'd be pissing myself every time she's on the TV.
Yeah,
I'm
Liz
not sure
Truss.
what.
Liz Truss.
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
none of your business. Keystone Pipeline violate Native American treaties going over aquifer water systems. Yeah, some of them do, definitely.
Oh, of course. That's the argument against doing it, right? So you can argue one way or the other on it. Like, when you need it, you need it.
Yeah.
When hey, we're happy to trample on people's land anytime, right? If it serves us.
Yeah.
Pansy 215 with a super sticker, thank you. And then we got Kate, join to answer Natalie's question. Pelosi's off to Taiwan to look executive. As Speaker of the House, she'll become VP when Biden drops out. Newsom will appoint Pelosi's daughter to her seat and run in 2024.
Yeah.
That's strategic.
That's strategery.
I mean,
right
but that's
there.
also the truth, right? But what I want to know is, why does she tell us that she has to go there, right?
Right.
Like, you
Right.
gave us the real strategy. Thank you very much. But, like, what is even the talking points?
Right. We support Taiwan.
Yvette Simonis, if a man implements an intermittent fasting lifestyle, eugenics will be unnecessary.
Okay.
Jason Powell, no one ever covers the repeal of the crude oil export ban. You can find it on the official Government Accountability Office website. That's
a great point. That's a very good point. So what was that? 2015 was the GAO, the General Accountability Office. The crude oil, what was it? The repeal. So because we had been producing so much oil at the time, I remember being on the air covering this story at the time. We were producing so much. We had a surplus of oil production in the United States, right? So what did we do? We repealed the crude oil export ban in 2015, and that allowed the United States to start exporting oil. So U.S. oil production could sell it to China, right? We could sell it other places. So it opened that up, of course. And what did it do? It was a huge decrease in U.S. shipping. So U.S. shipping, there was a lot of stuff that happened as a result of it. So yeah, it's a good point. That was a pivotal moment in 2015. So thank you for bringing that up.
Leo Titian, best state to move to during recession? Please advise. Gotta escape California. I'd probably say anywhere but there.
Yeah, I mean, maybe Texas. I mean, maybe Florida at this point.
You're asking, but we're answering from taxation standpoint.
Yeah, taxes, and freedoms, and freedoms and taxation.
It depends on what it is. What the problem you have with California is.
Yeah.
Don Wanderer, great show, very informative, very dangerous.
Right.
Dangerous.
Yes.
So let me remind you, yes, we have a daily newsletter. It's totally free. You can sign up at redacted.inc, and it'll be delivered to your inbox first thing in the morning. Now, the email address, this is very, very important. When you sign up, the email will come from me. It comes from my email. There, our new email. It's Clayton at redacted.inc, not .com, it's .inc. make sure that you can send me an email tonight if you want and just say hi. I'll say hi back. Make sure that you put us like in a VIP or however you do it, and you whitelist our email address. Otherwise, it's going to go to spam. And as I mentioned earlier, Google, for some reason, Gmail thinks that what we do here on this show is dangerous. So they actually it wound up in a dangerous folder. So like one of our viewers, Caston, wrote me earlier and he said, your folder, like Google deemed it as dangerous.
He had to dig it out of his spam folder.
He had to dig it out. Like that's what they're trying to hide from you. Like, so again, whitelist my email address here so that when we send you the daily newsletter in the morning, we cover about 5 or 6 stories. It's really informative. That's free. Just make sure it doesn't go to spam. If you do that, if you add that to your contacts, then it won't go to spam. So if you use Gmail or Yahoo or whatever, just add me to your contacts, and then that way it won't go to spam, okay? A little public service announcement there for you.
All right, Scott M. I wish you guys could get on a roundtable with the Duran.
Yeah, they do a great job. They're great, yeah. Yeah, they do a great
I'm
job.
free to B3A. Earl Grey recommended Redacted on his channel today.
Awesome.
Oh.
Thank you so much.
That's nice. We'll have to seek that out.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate that.
Sylvain Racine, look it up. Pelosi was arrested in Beijing at Tiananmen Square in 1989. Failed coup d'etat.
Okay. We'll look it up. Or you could link us later if you want. Go ahead.
13-year-old Faina Savenkova, Ukraine, Mirtrovotets list. Please look into it. Myro Tvorets list. Not sure what that's saying. 13-year-old Faina Ukraine list. Please look into it. I wonder if that's the same list that
Gonzalo
Eva
Lira
Bartlett
was on.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
And then Colin Jones with the super sticker, and that is the last one.
One just came in, Just Amazing Foods. Keep up the awesome work, and thanks for all the news. Super solid. Thank you for saying that. Thank you very much.
Yeah, there was also one from Donnie who loved bowling. Syrup, man up.
Man up.
Okay.
Thanks to all of you.
Nice Big Lebowski reference.
Man up. Thanks to all of you for subscribing and being a part of our great community here on Redacted. We're all searching for the truth. That's our goal with this show. We don't all have the answers, but we do know that the mainstream media is feeding you a line of garbage, and they are painting a narrative that is all, driven by the global elites. And so our message with this show is that we're searching for the truth, and we want to get the answers, and we do it together, trying to raise collective consciousness, right? Elevate all of us. That's our goal. So thank you guys so much for subscribing. We're about to hit 1 million subscribers. I'm really, really excited about it. Thanks for all of your support. And don't forget to sign up for our newsletter. Any final words? I'm afraid what you're going to say tonight, man. She's
What? No, I
Is
have
she
no
still rubbing
final
your leg?
words. No, and I'm
I like how
keeping
she
them
looks
to
like
myself.
she's like, what are you talking about?
rubbing my leg with her.
I didn't think you were rubbing his legs with your hands. I thought it was with your foot.
That's right.
No.
Playing
and
footsie
have
over
we
here.
gone now? What time is it? We've gone 2 hours.
Yeah.
Now.
You've been having a great time. I don't
Okay.
want to stop you.
No, we're done. We're done now.
Bye, everyone. We'll see you tomorrow.